council? Is that the shields? Okay. Council and staff are ready to start on.
Hey, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Well, it's good to see you, my friend. I'm glad that you and your wife did this. Yes. Does he know the other stuff?
Yes. No, he doesn't.
So I was telling you.
He and his wife.
Larry,
What?
you're going to tell people tonight?
Well, I'm going to tell people. Staff and council, it's after 7:05. We want to start. Okay, we are going to start with the invocation by Scott Smith and a pledge of, Kurt Oster will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, it is an honor and privilege to be here meeting as a group of citizens. We are thankful for the opportunity to live in a constitutional democracy and for the opportunity we have to have representative government. We are thankful for the good people in Highland. We are thankful for their values. We are thankful for their interest in the city and making our city a good place to live. And we ask you to bless us this night as we discuss various items, that we may find compromise where necessary, that we may have civility in our discussions, and that we may have a good spirit here. And these things we pray for. In the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Would you please stand with us to honor the flag of the United States of America? Repeat the pledge after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have unscheduled public appearances, so if there's an agenda item that you want to speak about that is not a public hearing, feel free to do that now. Or if there's something else you want to share with us about whatever subject you want, you have your 3 minutes to use however you want. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the council? Come up, state your name, and then let us know what your thoughts are.
Thank you very much. My name is John Panett. I'm concerned about the dry conditions in Highland, and I'm concerned about the fireworks ordinances. I know that some areas are limited or banned. I'd like to encourage the city and the fire department to consider a ban on aerial fireworks this year. I live in Pebblewood, which is just north of Windsor Meadows, which has lots of open space. And the grasses along the walkways and in the bushes are very, very dry. We all know that. It's the driest it's been in decades. And as I drove here tonight, every open field is crisp brown. The ditches are crisp. I've been here for 33 years, and in that time, since they've approved aerial fireworks, I picked up hundreds of bottle rockets off my yard because they shoot from all over, and the aerials are not controllable. Those on the sidewalk are probably safe enough, but the aerials. So I'd encourage the city to consider a ban this year, maybe confer with the fire department. I called them. They are kind of, they suggested I'd come and talk to you.
That was
anyway,
nice of them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good suggestion.
Hi, my name is Charlene Shields. I live in Pheasant Hollow, next door to the 2 homes that were torn down to make room for Canal Boulevard. I'm wondering what the plan is for the property, for the catch basin, everything. Everyone in Highland has been so happy to have the road open, and the cars are zipping up and down the road more than 30 miles an hour, but the project is not done. There is still a huge mess next to my home. If you, as city council members, have not been down there since the road was opened, you need to come down. You need to get out of your car. You need to walk over by the catch basin and see what weeds and dirt and mess are still left next to us in our HOA. And I'm wondering how long it's going to take and what the plan is to resolve these issues and finish the project.
Good question. I know we're working with Pheasant Hollow to combine those 2 lots, and then we plan on selling that property. And I'm not sure what the schedule is on the catch basin area.
Yeah, I was telling the Shields, I've talked to Nathan a couple times in the last 3 weeks because Todd, before he left, had promised that part of the project was to rock that. But, you know, again, we've still got to decide what to do with all the properties along the Canal Boulevard, which involves people above us too. Tom Harwood's old property, Val Gertson's old Hems. So,
And we would love a privacy fence around that catch basin. It is awful to look at. So we're left with dirt still blowing in our home after all summer last summer, and we're tired. We're tired. And you keep saying, yeah, we're working on it, we're working on it, we're working on it, but it doesn't feel like it to us.
Okay,
So
thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then I get to do something really fun. I'm going to come down, and I'm going to invite Scott and Rhonda to come up. Two wonderful people are moving on in life. Scott is our current principal at Oak Creek High School, and he's moving on to a district level position that he's really excited about, and I think he's going to make a difference. And Rhonda, you preceded him, right? And she went to Israel, and now she's leaving, and is going to serve in another capacity for the entire state. And I needed to grab him before we left, because I have these pins that we produce every year. It's limited edition, 50, and I give them to people I call Highland Heaters. And the pin is last year's theme in Highland was Our Story Unfolds. And Rhonda, you're a big part of our story. I'd like to give this pin a certificate of appreciation for everything you've done. And it has some nice words in it, but I can't possibly think of, because Rhonda has been so helpful. Whenever I've called at the district level, even though she's not over on Peak, she's been very, very responsive and helpful. And I hate to see her go. And I'm so thankful for everything she's done. And I'm excited she's retiring, but sad at the same time. And I feel the same way about Scott. Scott has been like an energizer bunny since he's been here. He's energetic, he's creative, he's happy, and he's very, very helpful. So you are a permanent part of our story. So this pin will help you remind you of this. And then again, we have a certificate that says how wonderful you are and how grateful we are that you've been here. So thank you so much for everything you've done, both of you, and we really appreciate you in serving our community. Just thank you, my heart. Thank you. Yeah, we'll do a picture? Okay. All right. Can do a picture. Thank you. All right, now we have two other special guests.
Mayor, can you try to project into the mic?
Okay,
Otherwise,
sorry.
nobody online can hear you.
All right, so we have two other special guests here. I have this really soft voice, and I get chastised for it all the time, but it's just who I am, so we'll live with it. Larry and Lori Mendenhall, I would invite you to come up. And something that you don't know is that these are our grand marshals for the year. They'll be in our parade, and they get to ride whatever you want, fire truck, whatever.
But I was driving the fire truck, I think.
Oh,
You don't want to ride.
Right? Yeah, I think that's what. I mean, I think that's what we decided.
Okay. Whatever.
So they've just resigned.
Then you should write it. But anyway, I want to give them certificates as well and pins. And this was independent of you being marshals. But you guys are part of Highland Star. You moved here in 1978. Yes. Lived over in my neck of the woods for a while, country club area. And then abandoned us and went to heaven in Bull River. Nice place to have here. Quiet. You're both part of our story. You have a personal motto that I find very nice, and I wish we could all be that way. Be generous, be kind. Can't think of a greater thing that other people should want to emulate for that. And Larry, you have been on so many committees and served on the planning commission, city council. And my wife, 3 4 years ago, had her trailer abandoned her for the parade the day before the spring parade. She was doing the kids' parade. Called up Larry, and he was Johnny on the spot. He came, he brought his trailer, he took a truck to haul it, he put him in there so that the children, because my wife wants the children's celebration. And he's done that every year since. He didn't know he's volunteering for the rest of my term or the rest of the life. But his example of service at a moment's notice is something that we can all learn from. So you both get certificates. Larry, yours says, serve at the drop of a hat and helping our community. Things just remind you that we appreciate you. Thank you. And you, young lady, yours says, thank you for all you've quietly done to serve our community. You all do that make Highland such a wonderful place to live. Your personal model of regeneration and that's the person you are. So thank you both, and congratulations on being the Grand Marshal's Ball. We'll see you on the parade.
Mayor, as Larry Manhall's walking away, as we all see the new Dry Creek Lake Park come down there by Smith's, Larry's currently serving on the North Utah County Water Conservancy District, and a lot of the work that's went into making sure and protecting Highland down there in that new park, Larry's been very vital, working with a lot of residents on boundary issues, making sure we have fences to work through and make sure Highland's voice is being heard. So thank you, Larry, also for your current service, and I know you're still going to be there for us, so thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and that is the fun part of this job. So I really, really appreciate this part of it. Thank you, all 4 of you, for everything you've done and will continue to do. So now we have a youth council presentation, and I'm looking at the young lady that's in her. Come on up, introduce yourself, and then let us know what you guys are doing to make Highland a wonderful place, how you're reaching new heights.
Okay. I'm Camilla Bradshaw. I am the government chair. So last month for the Arbor Day tree planting, we had youth council members, city staff, and around 20 citizens volunteer to plant approximately 8 trees in and around Town Center Meadows Park. On May 15th, youth council members helped with crowd control, traffic directing, and holding banners to run through at the Canal Boulevard grand opening. On the same day, youth council members helped staff the gate at the annual city cleanup. which was more fun and hotter than I thought it would be. For upcoming events, we're having a planning meeting and summer party this Thursday to brainstorm ideas for the Highland Fling. So far, the plan for the youth night is that it will be a chalk party for 7th to 12th graders on August 6th, and I've been told that additional details can be found on the city website. That's all I have to share, so are there any questions?
Council, any questions for Youth Council? We want to thank you for all you do. You're the worker bees that make some of the really cool stuff happen in our city, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next, consent items. We have 2 consent items. One is a construction contract for crack sealing. I believe this is the last contract that we're executing for roads. Okay? And thank you, everybody that came.
That was the fun part of the meeting.
Yes, this is, well, this next item isn't that not fun, but, and then after the crack sealing contract, there's a North County right-of-way dedication for North County Boulevard.
Mayor, can I pull item number 4A, please?
Sure. Any other items need to be pulled? Then I would take a motion on 4B.
I'll make that motion. I move that the Highland City Council approve consent item 4B, action North County Boulevard right-of-way dedication.
I'll
Is there
second.
a motion by Scott, second by Kim? We are ready for a vote. Is everybody's online stuff working? No. Okay, so Kurt, is yours?
I will get in. See if I can get in. I'm in.
Oh, there you go. Okay, almost ready. All right, the big reveal, that's a unanimous yes. Okay, Kurt, item 4A.
So, this question's for Andy. As we look at our crack sealing contract, we had a resident reach out. In some of the projects in the crack sealing, there's might be in the asphalt what's called alligatoring in the asphalt, which is the asphalt kind of breaking up or having a lot of cracks in it. When that happens in our projects, are we just going over and crack sealing and seal coating, or are we removing sections? What's the plan?
So what the plan is the first asphalt project that you awarded this year was the patching project. So where there are alligator cracks, they're going through and they're cutting out those sections and replacing those sections, and then we're coming behind with the crack seal project, sealing up the cracks, the curbs. Our road crews have been out killing the weeds in some of the cracks, et cetera, ahead of that. So it's kind of an order of operations. So we go and we remove the bad sections, the alligator sections, we come back behind and we crack seal, and then we come after that and we seal coat.
So who determines what might have too much alligatoring in the, is it something where staff will go and view
Right.
all of it and say, okay, this one just has a couple minor cracks, we can seal that, versus if it's a really broken up area, it needs to be replaced?
Correct, yeah. Ty Christensen primarily leads that effort, and he goes out there and works with our patching contractor, and so we're doing our best. If there is a section that you're aware of that looks like we've skipped,
So-
hey, bring it up to us, but that's our intent, is to fix all the bad sections, crack seal, seal coat.
And that's for the roads that are scheduled to be worked on this year. Now,
Right, yeah, so this is the
there's
last.
alligators that aren't going to be worked on this year.
Right, yeah, there's a number of them that won't be worked on, but those that are on this year's schedule, that's kind of the order of operations, is to make sure that by the time we put the final seal coat, we've addressed all the failure points or all the bad areas and then sealed everything up.
And if they want to know the schedule, they can go online and see the schedule. We haven't updated it based on this year's plan yet, but
Right.
it's mostly right. We have a schedule.
Yeah. We do
to work with.
have a schedule, and so they've been in town doing the patching project right now. It's ongoing right now. They're actively doing that. This crack seal will be right on its heels, so just here in the next couple of weeks, that'll start.
Thank you, I don't have any other questions.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
In this really bad drought year, are we having much trouble with alligators?
Well, I haven't seen many in town yet, but you never know.
No, but that's actually, Scott brings up a good question. No, but we've heard that there might be some issues with heat where we have asphalt buckling. Have we noticed anything in the city as we have heat, which might be where we're seeing some buckling because of the heat?
I mean, it is a phenomenon that does happen, and you do have buckling of both concrete and asphalt when you hit extreme temperatures. I haven't heard of any yet, but that is something that does happen.
Mayor, I move that we approve consent item number 4A, construction of our sill coat construction.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Kurt, second by Scott. We're ready to vote. Okay. And yes, so before we get to our next item, I want to just take a mayor's prerogative here. Jeff, did you have anything that you wanted to share with council? Okay. Well, all right, just here to observe. The other thing I would make a recommendation to the council then is that we take items 10 and 11 and move them now, because I know there's some people here for those items, and I don't want them to wait till the end of the meeting.
Quicker?
Is that okay? That's a continuation of our
Okay.
discussion on the
Open space.
open space property disposals. So let's go ahead and start with item 10. Can we do that? Okay.
I got to find it here first.
Oh, I don't need it anymore. No. Well, unless you want to, and no, we can just leave where we left off. And I wasn't driving that. Yes. So this item is going through the open space property disposal list and determining what the council is willing to surplus now as opposed to later. And so in our work session, we covered a fair bit of ground. So I think we kept fairly good notes on that. I would propose that we just continue going down the list, saying yes or no, and noting if there are any additional stipulations on any of the yeses, like we had with that trail corridor where we said consecutive from south to north, and then do a motion at the end covering all of it. Or alternatively, we can do a motion on every individual piece.
So you're talking about item 11, correct? Because
Oh, sorry, this is item 10.
with 10, couldn't we
This
approve
policy,
this?
yep, sorry, I got ahead of
Okay,
myself.
Okay.
So 10 is the policy. So that's not mine. Thank you, Scott. I was just so excited to get back into the,
I know, it's the exciting part.
yeah.
I told Larry, I said 10 years later, we're still talking about the same thing, but, okay.
And we may be 10 years from now still
That's true.
talking about it. Because if it was easy, it would have been done, right?
Right.
Okay, so Kelly, is this you or is it Rob that's doing this part?
Mayor, let me ask you, since we're talking policy and we're going through property, would it be better to go through, is the policy going to change, do you see, as we go through any of the property? Do you see the policy staying consistent, even if we go through the property?
The policy is a non-exclusive list. So if there are things in, I believe the staff revised it a little bit based on our previous discussion. If there's things that you want to change after we go through the presentation, Rob, are you doing this, or is Kelly? Or Nathan?
What?
Presented by Rob Patterson and Nathan Crane. So, rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, rock, paper, scissors for it.
We're doing the policy, is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yes, number 10, item 10.
Yeah. Go ahead, go.
So I'm assuming council read the staff report, and there was a resolution in there with a list. Well, did you have any comments to make? in
No, this
general?
is the same item as last time. We kind of went through and presented it. It's been kind of revised a couple of times, and I believe the council wanted to look at those criteria, maybe clarify or change or add or remove. We're here to help out drafting that or doing whatever the council wants.
Let me make a comment, because I'm the one that kind of wanted to revise a few things on that. But as we've had a lot of requests to surplus the property, I think most of the people use this criteria, and it seemed to work okay.
Okay.
So I withdraw my objections to that. I think things can always be better worded, but I think it was clear enough that people seemed to understand it pretty well. And the applications we had for surplus many times meets the criteria, and I think we've found some that we're going to be able to surplus because of that. So I think I could support this and go ahead and vote on it.
So is there any other council member that wants to revise what is? Okay, then I would entertain a motion.
I move that the council adopt the orphan parcel disposal policy.
I'll second it.
Motion by Kurt, second by Scott. Okay. And for those of you that are watching or visiting for the first time, I'm very impressed that our assistant administrator is able to work with this presentation and get voting to work as we jump through agendas. It's not always easy, it's a little bit tricky. So there's a lot of magic happening behind the scenes that you have no appreciation for, but I do. So thank you, Aaron, I appreciate it. All right, next item is the disposal. So let's just keep going through the list of properties. Switch
Can I
over.
make a quick comment,
Sure.
though, before we start? Just because if some people weren't listening to the work session.
How could that possibly be? But you're right, there must be
I
at
mean, I don't know
least-
why they wouldn't.
Yes, if I had something at 5:30 that was really important, I would make this a priority over that.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, so, but
Just
thank
in
you.
case.
Just in case.
Just in case. So I think that one thing that happened as we opened this up to basically the city to let anybody put in a proposal is, like, what is an issue that was really complicated that I think everybody warned us that we shouldn't take on was actually like 20 times more complicated than we had thought going in. And so one of the ideas that we had during the work session was that we could go through the properties, and for ones where there was unanimous agreement, we could go ahead and either surplus those or make those a no. And for the other ones that we're questioning, we would come back to those at a later date. But like later in that we'll actually do it later, not later in that we'll say we'll do it later and then we won't do it. Like actually do it later, subdivision at a time, and make decisions that way. That way staff can help us get information. We can visit the ones that we didn't visit. I think we've all been trying to do that. So that's kind of where we were at. So we went through a few during the work session, and now we'll go through
So
more.
let me clarify later. We were talking about being later this year.
Yeah.
So that the price that we've
Correct.
approved for this year would still be in effect.
Correct.
So we're not trying to push it into another year where the price may go up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Scott, I agree. I think as a council, we need to make a decision in this fiscal year because the price will adjust in January. The price we agreed upon actually was done on January 1st of 2020, just the way the property taxes, so that it would be natural to make some adjustments. But
Right.
we need to get this done this
This
year
year.
underneath this pricing so people know what they're dealing with.
Well, and I think, and we're doing this, but I think we need to really look at each proposal, and then if we say no, then I think we need to make it clear why we said no at this time.
Okay.
But, you know, the others that we can't quite decide that we're going to look at, we ought to say maybes or something.
Mayor, if I, as we met, Brittany Bills and Mayor Mann and myself were on a subcommittee, for me, it became obvious where we're having a lot of concerns in our open space was some of the policies and how it came about. So open space started in about 1999 was when the city started discussing about doing open space subdivisions. They either, a developer could do an R140, or they could opt into the Highland Open Space Special Service District and do an open space subdivision. It was interesting, the very first open space subdivisions in Highland required that every property parcel had to touch open space. And so we see some of those developments, because they had that policy, we see a little bit harder on certain things, but every property had open space around it. When we get up into the Beacon Hills or some of the little bit further, the policy changed, and so we see some of the different, it's why we're seeing some of the different requests, that we're seeing. As we see up in Viewpoint, every home had to have open space by it. Where we get into others, it's not that policy, and so as we go through this, you can kind of almost recognize which subdivision we're in, if it was a policy to have open space touch every parcel, or if it was one that open space would be kind of a bonus density there for the development.
Okay. So we are,
I have down that we're starting with Michael Spear, is that right?
That's where we left.
This is where we are.
Do we need to go through the other ones that we discussed already, just for the record, or no?
What I'm proposing we do is we've kept notes, or I've kept notes.
We can go back and make a motion.
We make a motion and we cover
Each and every one.
each of them individually and say, or as a group, but just say, we're deferring on this one, we're saying no on this one, and yes on that one. So we can just go through the same list, and I will, while you're talking, I will catch up so the document is live. So let's start with Michael Spear. So let's bring up his request and then show his property on the parcel map.
Okay. I'm familiar with this program.
What's
Okay.
the address on this one?
Did you pull that one up?
Michael Spear, 11832 North, 6260 West.
So just Kelly, to make sure there's no easements behind this property, is that correct?
That's correct.
The one question I had when I evaluated this property, the request is to take the property all the way across the whole back, which then kind of jogs into some existing, if you want to say the open space. I'm wondering if we want to just come and take it where those other properties are at and kind of, square it off, and so there's a line that way versus going into the other open space.
That makes sense to me. Another option would be go corner to corner. So that corner right there, so you're not digging in. That seems like
Either of those seem reasonable to me.
I like the corner to corner that the mayor's presenting. I think that would make it a little smoother.
Okay.
So this could be a yes with a little bit of change in the boundary.
Yeah, I'm amenable to it.
I'm fine with that.
What do you think?
Okay, next.
Okay. It's the property back behind their home, is that right?
Yes.
And I believe that we have done on our list, that's a parkway detail. It's as you enter up, so. I think that would remove, when you talk about an open space field, if we sold that, that would take away from that as you are driving in on that road.
Yeah, you'd end up selling all the way.
Correct.
Does anybody have a different view?
Well, yeah, I don't think we should be selling the parkways.
So that is, I'm going to make that a no.
Are you in agreement on that? Yeah. Okay.
Are these all those properties along Apollo Way now? Or is this the?
Yeah, this
Oh,
is
no,
the
no,
group
this
of...
is the one that goes to the back of the park.
Yeah,
There's a park that's there that they go
Well-
back into.
This is along the Apollo, that trail.
No, this isn't, there's a park, there's some playground right in that area, and so that backs up to that park area. What happens, the council surplus, if you remember, Scott, this is where we was it surplused? Yeah, this is where we surplused a couple years back, and this is now the parcel next to it, but to me, that
Oh, you're talking about the slope.
Yeah, turn on the aerial, and you'll see this is a park area.
Yeah, the slope.
That's behind them, so that's all park now behind them.
So the parcel below that, can you click on that? And that's owned by,
That was sold,
that was sold to those
Yes.
guys. And that's where we stopped.
yeah.
Right there.
So they're kind of asking us to continue. And that would be a choice of the council. Would you want to sell the rest of the park there up north?
It says that this, Nathan, you put down this is a very steep area. Am I thinking right? I didn't think it was that steep.
Maybe Nathan can tell us why it stopped there.
I think that's just where I'd have to look it up, because I think that's where the request was.
Yeah. We just have a park area behind that.
This is one we could
Can we defer this
punt
one?
Continue?
Yeah.
and say,
I would say continue
Further
it too, because I think we need to investigate a little bit more.
Okay.
That's one of their sledding hills, if I remember right.
okay.
Smart.
They're smart. Well, actually,
So the next ones are that group along the trail in the circle.
So you have 5 and then one outlier.
yeah, the outlier is that one.
Can I make a comment about this? In the resource material, the letter from these people, it was suggested that we surplused this area in 2018, but I was on the council then, and it happened before I came on the council, because I remember going up there with another council member in January, and the roadblock on this is that the original proposal is all those homes on the south of that trail wanted to purchase some of it up to 5 feet of the trail. The people on the north side of the trail didn't. There was a problem, as I understand, with moving the irrigation line. And so their resource material said it was 2018, but it had to happen before 2018. I think it happened in 2017. But so the proposal now is a lot of those people don't want to buy it anymore, but the people on that end do, and then one on the other end. And if I understand right, they just went up to 5 feet of the trail. And in their comments and things, they said they wouldn't have to move any irrigation. So that's been kind of the big contention spot all along.
Does staff know if irrigation lines that need to be moved?
There's, that whole area is watered by a sprinkler system.
The city's sprinklers.
And so what has to happen
They would have to
is
move it.
It has to get moved. Yes, if you, 2 minutes, right. 2 minutes. So you need to come up to the mic and
Candace,
state your
yeah.
name.
Candace Costin. And so I live on the 4th house in there. So back then, it got approved all the way across, and the issue was really not that the issue was the landscaping, but it was really the cost of the landscaping, and so it was just too much for people to handle. We recently, like you said, there's been some movement. People have moved in and out, some rentals that no longer were interested. So we did actually bring a landscaper in, and it looks like the main line does not need to be moved anymore. The big city box, which is between the house on the top and the next one there, does not need to be moved because it's going to stay on city property. So no main lines need to be moved anymore. It's literally just a matter of cutting a few lines and making sure that the 5 feet on both sides gets watered. And in fact, the boxes are right behind my house, right there, yeah, that fourth house there. And so if we wanted to keep those boxes, are about 8 feet from the path. I mean, if we wanted to, we could keep those there. I don't care if we chop out that little corner or whatever. But the main line actually starts right there. We had a guy come out and, you know, doing the wire thing, and it starts there and it goes all within the 5 feet all the way across. There is a piece around on the top side of that house where the main line curves in. So if that owner potentially wanted to extend to the side, then that main line would need to be moved. But if we didn't include the side of her house, then the main line would not need to be moved because that would stay on city property. So it was really more of an issue of the owners willing to fork out the money, but now that the scope is a lot shorter, a lot smaller, it's not quite an issue as far as cost anymore. And the main idea is, you can see there on the other side of the bike path, the owners have about 25 feet of yard and about 5 to 10 feet of city property. And for some reason, us on the other side kind of got jilted. We have like 10 feet of private property and 25 to 30 feet of public property. So we're just trying to even that out a bit. So that's kind of where we are.
Can I ask her a question?
Sure.
Maybe, okay. So I've walked this, Candace, and we've been in communication and things. So that area is already landscaped, and so if the 5 homes we surplus closer to the trail, which I think is 5 feet,
Right.
you still have all the space on the north side. Do you anticipate, when the city comes in and maintains this, don't they drive down the trail to do it? I mean, maybe, Andy, you may not know this, but how do they access into that? Do they just come in and drive along the trail with their lawnmowers, or how does it work?
That's what I've seen when I've seen the people.
Right, so...
And they have to come anyway, because they still have to do, you can see either, you know, those first 2 houses on the north side, they're already, you can see kind of fenced right there.
Right.
And so they are already mowing strips of only 5 to 6 feet on the other side, so we feel like it's not
So
gonna
you're
be that
saying
big of a
if
difference.
we surplus behind those 5 homes, that there'd be less for the city to maintain?
Yes.
But they could still maintain it?
Right, because they have to come in anyway and do the strips on the other side.
So it doesn't leave any orphans other?
And you're still allowing the 5 feet on each trail?
Yeah.
Oh, there's 5 feet on the south, but there's more than 5 feet on the north.
It
Yeah.
ranges, you know, that first house there, you know, it's pretty thin, as you can see, where they have their fence on the north side of the path, or down at the bottom.
North or south?
There you go, right there.
Oh, this one.
That little fence there, they have just a little bit of strip, unusable basically. But then some areas you can see kind of, you know, as it goes around, it
widens
gets a little
out.
bit thicker and then it kind of thins again. So it's uneven, basically.
Is that fence solid 6 feet or?
Yeah, it is. All the fences there. I counted right now, there's, I don't know, 4 to 6 fences on the north side, and then on our side now, a couple of people actually put fences up as well. So
I mean, that would be one of the questions I'd have, Mayor, is if we go 5 feet on each side and we have a higher fences, are we closing the corridor? You know, traditionally, I'm in favor of you know, doing something here because it's already been discussed. So one is, are we going to be closing in a corridor? I get nervous. I went up by that Ridgeline Elementary, and when you look on the very back side, they have about this, and I was surprised
But-
how much it closed it in.
But Kurt, I thought it was a 6-foot fence, but the top 2 feet had to be
Open lattice, I think. Is
Open
that right?
lattice.
So it'd be 4 feet, then open lattice?
Yeah.
and the reality too is that not everyone fences, as you can see, right? And so.
So the next question I'd have, and maybe, I don't know if this Nathan, or if we go in, so is this going to be the sprinkler repair, is it done by residents? Is it done by city? Is it done by a professional company? What's kind of the thought process if the, because there's going to be sprinklers?
Are you done with?
Oh, no,
whatever?
we wanted to follow suit as what the other people did on Jupiter, which is, you know, find and hire our own people. We would pay the people directly. Of course, our landscaper would draw up plans, meet with the city people, get it approved, and then we would pay the landscaper directly so the city doesn't need to be involved except for the approval before, and of course, the sign-off at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So my only thought is if the council is considering going with this, is because there's existing fences that are 6 feet without any lattice, and right now that's a nice trail to walk through because it feels open, that if it does get sold, that there's a stipulation that fences be open fences, period.
As in the 4 feet plus the 2 feet open?
No,
or
just open as in slats or, like we have around the splash pad, that kind of thing. So because this is my personal opinion, but it seems like it's a really nice trail now, but if that trail was just a corridor, it just wouldn't feel nice anymore, so.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, but
It's a discretionary sell on our part.
yeah, nobody's ever wanted to surplus the north side, so you've got that corridor. It's a little narrow at the bottom. I would probably just favor the 4-foot fence with the 2 foot of lattice, so you have some privacy.
Well, that's what we
Because your
had
yards
in-
are really tiny back there. Yeah.
And I reckon, I'm just worried about what the mayor, some of it, if you've not went and walked, I'm just going, I would have, if I hadn't been up by Ridgeline Elementary and saw what they just did, where it appears it's 4 foot and then it has a 2 foot opening, I was surprised how, when I looked down, I thought, as kids walking there, it is a little more narrow and closed in. It surprised me. It's just, I just want to make sure that the filling, you have only 5 property owners, the others don't want it. You can really change the character. I don't, there's some areas we've said they can have 4-foot fences. I don't know. This is a good tough one.
Well, just in Canterbury South and Canterbury North, they have these trails also, and it's all the 4-foot fence with the 2 feet open also.
Are they only 5 feet on each side?
Yeah, well, thinking of my area in Canterbury South, some of those fences come up to,
You are coming from this 10-400 across, is it in back? How's the fill there?
I think it's beautiful. They've planted, some trees, and there's an amount of privacy, but at the same time, it doesn't feel enclosed.
But that's
I don't live on the trail, though.
That's more than 20 feet though, right? In most of those areas, it's more than 20 feet.
Brittany and I have driven them, and definitely there are areas that are 3 feet.
I think what you find is that this trail wasn't connected, literally, like the only people that use it.
It just goes from road to road.
Mayor, may
Yes.
I
You
add a
may.
note? Just with what's currently required in the development code, so I just did a couple measurements on this, and it comes to being, without selling any open space, comes to 40 to 50 foot wide trail corridor. And
There that exists now.
that's existing without selling any property. And so that's where we would permit 6-foot solid fences, but then once you're less than the 40 feet solid corridor, that's where you do the 4 feet and then the 2.
So according to code, if there's an area that goes in that's more closed in than 40 feet, they have to go to the 4-foot fence, is that right?
Unless, 4-foot solid and 2 feet open, but unless they're directly adjacent to a public road, just because it's seen as being plenty public and visible for plenty of people. And then we are also permitted as staff to permit special circumstances if we feel like it is still a safe area and visible from more than one public space or park or whatever it may be.
So Kelly, what you're mentioning is you believe that development code's already addressing some of the concerns we're talking about?
Yes, the concern I do have is just that if there are existing solid fences that are in there and then we're making it less than a 40-foot trail corridor, they would technically be grandfathered in because they're permitted, because they were built when it was over a 40-foot corridor. So just to keep that in mind, that not every fence would be 4 feet solid and 2 feet open.
I'd like to make a comment. This was, of course, when the whole thing was approved by the council, some years ago.
And that was an all or nothing.
Yeah,
at
it
the
was
time.
kind of an all or nothing at that time, but I think Candace and her immediate neighbors have kind of struggled with this for how many years? Long time. So I think you still have a beautiful trail that's landscaped, you still have a pretty wide corridor. I think if they agree to 4-foot fences with some lattice at the top, I think they're just kind of desperate to have more than a 5-foot backyard. And so I support them in this.
Any other comments?
So coming back, Nathan, so is the thought, I mean, one concern, what I'd always been hearing, and like you mentioned, Scott, I was on the council when they did the very first thing, is the understanding, are we hearing correct that the main line is, what the understanding is, it is more closer to the trail than it is in the main area? I guess if they come across and find the main line anywhere, what would be our concern? Nathan, that was a question for you.
Well, we're just gonna have to plot it and see where it's at, and then go from there. But if they get close to that main line, we had a break. Somebody put a fence in, and they broke our main sprinkler line last week, and we had to go in and repair it, and,
In this area, you mean?
no, in the city. But it looked like a big U when we were done. So we just need to go and look at it and see
And
where
then,
it's gonna be.
if they're in the replacement of the sprinkler, so let's assume the main line is closer to the trail, if there's some sprinklers that need to be moved that are city, because those sprinklers right now in the cities, they need to be moved, is that going to be something that, like they mentioned, it's not the city staff doing it, they have to hire a professional contractor, or can
Yes,
residents do it on their own?
No, they have to hire a contractor.
And they're
We have
agreeable.
specific standards,
They
yeah.
already met with a contractor and the city out there recently.
Okay.
That
I
was all
agree
part
with
of it.
Scott on this one. I'm
I
fine
think it's a
with it.
yes.
So these 5, you're talking just the 5, right?
And the one?
What are we going to do with the 1?
The problem with the one is that's real isolated.
Can we say yes on the 5, defer the 1?
Sure. Is everybody amenable to that?
Yes.
Next one is Chris and Jamie Johnson. Okay, do you want to bring up so what he's proposing is corner to corner between his north corner and the adjacent property owner's north corner.
You're just putting a triangle in there.
Yeah.
This was a hard one, because I can see you saying no, and I can see you saying yes.
Same thing, this could be a defer, what, go ahead.
But just in the spirit of consistency, we did that exact plan for one of the previous properties, where we made it a triangle, and we went point to point.
Yes, but it was a slightly different circumstance, right?
Pardon me?
It was a slightly different circumstance.
What was the difference in the circumstances?
Well, it didn't butt up to trees, and it was in an open area. This is different. You know, this could go either way, but if you do this and you go back to Beacon Hills, then you do all those, right? This is more like the Beacon Hills area.
So if we do the point to point, is this what you're referring to when you say .02?
No, when I put .02, I said, okay, look, you could do a triangle that's just that open area there where there aren't trees.
Oh,
Is the concern the trees, is that what you're considering there, mayors, because there's trees? You want to keep that filled with the trees, is that what you're saying?
It's an open area with trees. Anyway,
So-
That's just a thought I had, I don't, you
Is
know.
our concern that they're going to remove the trees, or?
Well,
It'll be on the
if-
city
if-
property.
If it's on their property, they can. So them or a future owner, so there's,
So, I understand your comments.
and I know
Mayor.
what problem he's trying to
Uh,
solve, because this is a specific request because of a problem that was created when the pool went in, right? It was, because there wasn't enough setback to put the structures in that he wanted to put in, or that are already put in. And so, I don't know if doing this triangle mitigates that problem.
Which triangle, the smaller?
The smaller one.
Perhaps the homeowner would like to comment?
Yes,
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, it does resolve an impasse on a setback, potential setback issue, based on some interpretation of the code.
You're talking if we did the small triangle?
Or the big triangle that you asked for.
The one I requested.
Right, does that one solve your problem?
That one, no. If you look at the adjacent properties, there's the same amount of trees, like you're not creating any new precedent there.
Well, no, that's property that was designed and laid out this, we are now selling city property, which is different.
Right,
That
but
was
it's-
not city property.
But as far as the tree coverage, it's no different than it is existing in those other properties.
What you're saying is they left the trees. Yeah.
But that's their choice, right?
A lot of those trees from the satellite view, they're overhanging. So it's not like the trees are actually right there. The branches overhang quite a bit. But, you know.
But why wouldn't that solve your problem if you actually put it to where the trees were?
I'd have to measure it to see if we've got, I think in that corner.
Kelly,
there would
can you-
be 10 feet.
Did it go right up to the property line? Do you remember? The waterfall part, does that go right, like, does it abut the property line, or was it a few feet away from it?
Is 1 foot away.
1 foot?
So why does it need to be 10 feet away?
It depends on how you measure it. The vault that will contain the pool equipment, I ordered specifically to be 200 square feet because the code says if it's more than 200 square feet or has a permanent foundation, then it's an accessory structure.
Right, so does it not have a permanent foundation?
It does not.
No, what is
You
it?
can pick it up and move it anytime?
You're talking the pool you can move?
No, there's a concrete vault that waterfall will be placed over when faced with faux rock, but the pool equipment goes inside the vault. Again, the code is not specific on how to measure the dimensions of an accessory structure. I was going off of internal dimensions. It's exactly 200 square feet internal dimensions.
And there were two of them, right? And they were adjacent to each other?
Correct.
So
For a
then
total of
the
2.
question is it one structure or two when they're adjacent to each other?
Yeah, it also gets into how do you measure that an accessory structure?
What is, anyway, if, not my call, but if that were to solve your problem, that would, if I was voting, that would be an easier yes.
I think it does solve your problem, and I agree with this. It'd be nice if you left some of those trees in, though.
Oh, I've
Yeah.
no
You just saw
intention
that
of
corner.
removing any trees, I can assure you that. Again, those branches overhang quite a bit. There's fewer trees there than it looks by this photo.
So that's, you're seeing the edge, what you're saying is the
And-
tree stalks or the tree
Yeah.
base is quite a bit in.
And think about the fence, right, that I need to put in for the pool. I mean, I would have a weird triangle coming in. We're just trying to even out the fence line, both for my neighbor as well as I, since we're both putting in
Well-
pool. We'd like to have a fence line that meets up. Another thing to keep in mind is we have no intention of putting the fence all the way back. We're only looking to, right where your cursor is right there, 19 feet from the existing property line. We're looking to actually put the fence from that point to the other corner if that portion is sold.
But you want to buy more?
Or
Yeah.
the setback,
But you're planning on putting your fence in closer?
yeah.
Wait, so that is the line, or that?
This is where the fence line would be?
Yeah, approximately, I think 19 feet.
The one question I have for the council, are we making a decision on the property, or are we making a decision on someone's pool? I mean, I'm just trying to be, what's our decision, because there could be unique circumstances for every parcel.
True, but it kind of makes the lines a little better there too, and, I support this. It's such a small piece.
So again, the fence line will not go into those trees at all. We have no intention of.
Once you have your property, we can't, you might be the property owner that does that, but this is going to go on for 50 years, so any property owner could put it on their property line.
We can put a tree easement.
Creative.
Kurt, in all due fairness, we just passed the criteria, and I didn't see any criteria. I
It
guess
was
this
a
would fit under the
non-exclusiveness.
feel of open
Right.
space, I guess. Yeah.
It's a non-exclusive list.
Yeah.
I just,
So let's talk about, do we need to kick is this about a precedence? Are we just doing something on a little corner to try to, are you worried, Mayor, are you worried if we do this whole little triangle that we all of a sudden, you see this making a decision for what we were discussing up in the Beacon Hills area?
my concern is, one, we're doing a boundary line adjustment to fix a problem that the property owner created, because there was no impetus before that to buy it. So that means future people that create problems would be justified in saying, well, you accommodated this one.
You mean what problem has been created by the property owner here? There's a
Well,
request to buy.
Well, he's building his pool, and he had some structures to support a grotto.
What you're
with a
saying is
waterfall,
we can't
and
see the
those-
pool that's currently there, is what you're saying.
Well, those structures came within 1 foot of the property line, and our inspector guy said, that's too close, you need to be 10 feet. So doing that triangle fixes that problem.
If I could clarify, Mayor, there was an intent to try and get that triangle land before there was even a pool in contemplation.
But we didn't see that.
There was a moratorium for a year on
There
requests.
was. Yes.
Right, so I've had to wait for quite a while. Since that time, as an interim step, was to get a 200 square foot vault without a foundation that I could put in there and not be within the setback. Trying to do what I think you want residents to do. That you don't have to have an inspection to see whether or not you need a permit. But I proactively reached out to the planning department, had them come out to verify I'm above board, right? I've done this exactly how it's stated in the code, only to find out, well, you actually need to go off of external dimensions. There's nothing, which by the way, you should clarify in code if you want residents to voluntarily comply. It needs to be clear on how those dimensions are measured.
Well, and the other thing is you haven't encroached like a lot of people in the city then choose to do. So I think that's in your favor. You've tried to do things right. And I don't have any problem with this little triangle here.
I agree with Scott on this one, just because I don't know what that triangle, what good that does us,
There's no trail there.
or why it would cause harm to any neighbors or anybody.
So Brittany and Scott, you're saying the bigger triangle, not the small one, correct?
Yeah, I would just go from the corner to corner and just kind of even out the line there.
Is there any concern because there's foliage there that we might be selling? I mean, like I said, we got, are we starting to set some precedents where we're starting to sell where there's a lot of foliage that, that some people might equate as this being kind of an open space or an sensitive easement area or things of that nature, or do you think we're okay?
Would you miss this if it was gone?
Would I?
Yeah, like if you're just like walking by, or if you live in that neighborhood, would you be like, man, our neighborhood felt way better
If I had my little hut underneath that one tree, I would.
So if you look
I
at
don't,
that,
though.
if you look at that other image there, you can see when there's no leaves on those trees, the overhang there, there's actually very
little
few-
tree in there.
Yes.
It's where it overhangs. So that's in the winter. So they're really not taking out a lot of trees, if
No.
any.
So to me, it's not something anybody else would
Benefit.
notice or miss if it were gone.
I don't think it creates a negative precedent because you're just connecting the two property lines, and if someone came to us and they were trying to add property under this particular, quote, precedent, they wouldn't be able to do it. because
So are you okay with this, Tim?
I'm okay with that.
There's your
Sounds
three.
I'm,
There's your
I'm
three.
fine with it.
There's your three.
Okay,
We're moving on.
Yes.
okay.
See how easy that is?
Yeah, 20 minutes later.
Okay. We're doing actually
We're
really
doing
good.
pretty good.
Okay,
For
next
us,
one
yeah.
is Ryan and Triana Tucker. Which is a neighbor.
Is the request the whole corner there?
The request is just that chunk, as I understand it, right?
We'd have to maintain the one side and then the other side?
Yes. They're doing a park strip update there, like putting it's funded by the neighbor on the
Correct.
northeast.
Funded by the Andersons, correct?
Right, and we're contributing, but I would make, if I was council, I would make this until that's done, so then you can see what the impact would be.
So this is the, Nathan is, oh, he's not here. So this is where they raised $70,000?
Yes.
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 That's
So-
in the foundation, 10 of which is in the city now.
And there's
but-
going to be a grassy area on the right there.
Is that Cypress and Adonis?
Yes. So there's going to be a bigger grassy area there. They're going to do some improvements to the park
So
strip.
Mayor, I think
going across.
your recommendation to hold off until we see how it really gets approved might be wise.
So the proposed strip is going to go all the way from that corner to the other
Yeah.
corner, right
If
behind it.
not, I'm really kind of a no, because I think you're just making a little patch there in some city property.
I would say defer it.
Yeah, I'd agree with deferment until we decide.
Anybody else agree with either opinion?
Defer.
Oh, sorry, I was just scrolling down, the plans are in here too.
Okay.
And on top of that, I did want to mention, just because on the sheet, I said that Joanne was reaching out to Rocky Mountain, and Rocky Mountain did respond to her and just sent her a list of what would be allowable, and basically it was just limited to like sports courts and landscaping without structures,
Okay.
so.
Because this one was possibly wanting to build something indoors, right? An indoor facility.
So the other question we have to look at, our policies, we're talking about orphan parcels that are not accessible. Some of this now becomes, this is not an orphan parcel.
That's out in public. Same, you could take the same position you did on that other one on the Parkway.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Which one's this one? Oh,
Armin Way.
Say it again. 10075 north, 6300 west.
now what was their request? What is it they're trying to purchase? I can't remember exactly what they're,
I don't remember, I don't think it's very specific as to where, they just want some more property.
is this orphan
Is
parcel?
wetlands, it's part of the Hidden Pond subdivision. that
Oh,
goes up
okay,
to
that's
That's where
hollows
the
over
trail's going
here.
to go.
Yeah, I would say we need to defer. We've got a trail going in, and this really isn't an orphan parcel. We have our trail, this is the frog pond, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Frog Pond.
There's a frog pond right here, so. If you haven't walked this trail, go down there, there's a lot of little frogs.
Yeah. And
My kids go home with frogs.
without the runoff from the farm there, the alfalfa fields, the frog pond's kind of drying up.
Oh, you think it's gonna dry up?
It's sort of already has, but the trail goes through there, and it's going to continue south.
Well,
so-
but you have the Kellys that have a natural So that, I thought the Kelly's property also fed the frog pond. It's just, you have that pond right there, does that not go over to it?
Anyway, I would just wait till
Yeah,
personally, I would wait till we build that trail.
Yeah, I would wait till we see how it all comes in.
So is that a no for now, or
I think it's
defer?
a defer.
Defer, but
Defer.
that's a beyond this year defer. To me,
Okay.
that's when that trail is continued.
Yeah, I think this not.
And it crosses a bunch of, he snakes it up along the edge,
Yeah.
so it's complicated.
Shumways, is this the Shumway? Now, Shumways are not part of an open space subdivision, but to be honest, some of these others we've been looking at, this might be one of the first. They're trying to buy on the one side of the trail that goes into Windsor Meadows, right?
Kelly, can you explain where they want to buy?
It's like this awkward
Oh, it's not
looking
behind
stub
their
road
house?
right here.
It's to the side.
Oh, I misunderstood, thought it was behind.
No, and there are 4 main lines of various types running through that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the one that Nathan has spoken to in the past a few times.
And it's a no. What we could do a much better job of is, see all that junk
Yeah.
that's there?
So is that,
That's code enforcement.
is
that we
that,
need
yeah,
to
as
be
I said,
doing.
that's not city trailers, is it?
No,
No,
that's other people's stuff.
probably theirs.
Something for our new part-time code enforcement.
Could Nathan address this a little bit? Sounds like he knows more about this one. This is the Dwayne and Shannon Shumway property, where the stub comes down.
Is this, do they have a lot of like easements with utilities in it?
You said
See all those lines? See the colored lines? Those are all.
So, yes, there's 3 utility lines that go in there. And when we looked at it before, that was one of the main challenges with it, in trying to abandon one side of the road or the other. And I think there's a ditch line too, if I remember right. That was one of the big challenges with that. But we can pull up the old documentation for it. I don't think it made it to council, but the property owner to the east was looking at it to try to do that, and there wasn't enough property because of that water line. It was far enough to the east. Sorry, I'm a little fast. Yes. That it didn't make sense to come down, because you have to come down far enough with the driveway to provide the turnaround for the garbage trucks and things like that. So forth, the emergency turnaround. And the water line, and it goes across the ditch, and that's also the location they use to access the ditch to maintain it, if I remember correctly.
So if we don't surplus this, what can we do to improve this?
Yes.
Code enforcement.
Do you know who's putting all those trailers, or do we have any idea?
We'd have to look at how they're licensed. I don't know who owns them, no.
There's a lot of stuff there.
It's been a long time since looked at it. That was a while ago.
But we're going to soon have a code enforcer, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I was talking about the improvement side of it, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
There are some things we can do with it. Yeah, but I don't know who owns it. A lot of trailers, who owns the trailers? The number changed from day to day. Or
So
week to week.
they shouldn't be there, period, though, right?
There's been cars, there's been, yeah.
So your opinion is we should never sell any of this? Is that
Oh, I
what you're
didn't.
saying?
I was just giving the background on it.
Okay.
There's utility easements in it, aren't there? So why would we sell that, because we couldn't get access? And you're saying about the garbage truck.
Yeah, so that's just what I remember about it off the top of my head. I didn't,
So I don't know why we would consider selling it if we're needing it for easements.
We own the property, we've got lots of utilities in there. I think Todd used to say, if we own it, then we shouldn't give it out.
Correct.
Okay.
But obviously, we need to do something to kind of improve
Yes.
that. I mean, that's
Well-
quite an eyesore.
stuff shouldn't park there, for
Right.
sure. And we can and should, so my recommendation would be, let's see if we can't do better than we're doing now. And then if it continues to be a problem, then let's figure out.
But this area is not in an open space area, this
No.
is, so.
Okay, we're now down to viewpoint, and we've resolved a lot of those already.
Yep.
Okay. I think this was the no from before.
Which one?
This one.
Viewpoint right now, David and Karen.
Yes.
That's the one
What's the
we,
last name?
Sharman?
Okay.
Yeah, right by the bus.
Oh, sorry, no, that's Steve Sharman, the Shoreline Drive, yeah, Viewpoint, yeah.
So that's the one, I believe when we talked about that in our work session, that was a no.
Correct.
Has anything changed?
No.
Okay,
No.
next.
This is that turn.
Okay, this is that list of 10.
Is this where we thought the road might go?
It looks like it, yes.
But those were no's, right?
Yeah, those were no's, which could change.
When would it change?
Well,
Not
after
this-
the road is built, but
Yeah,
that's,
but not this year, that's what
no,
I'm saying, it's not
no.
a,
so
do
this is a no.
Now, if we learn about the road and they don't build it,
Right.
we could
Th-
then surplus it.
Yes, but that'll be
So
a few
it's
years.
a question, no, depends on the
it probably
road.
won't come in this year, is what I'm saying. It's not this year, they come back to the agenda.
Okay.
That was where he wanted to own property on the other side of the trail. Which number is this one, the 40? Okay, it's Gordon?
Which one is that?
Cordon?
Cording. That one's a no for me because I feel like you can't have a city trail going through the middle of your backyard.
I agree.
Anybody disagree with that?
It's just, this is,
Now, let's, okay, so they've encroached on the backside.
Yeah, they're new property owners, so they bought it, and that already existed.
Like new within the last week.
Yeah, because if you look at, it's not recorded yet in the system.
Yeah.
so what do you do with this property that's already landscaped behind them up to the trail?
That part you could defer,
Yeah. Click to the next slide.
because if you go and look at all the neighbors going east, they've all encroached there. And so that's one where you could do maintenance agreements, or if you want to sell, you could just
Sell up
say,
to 5 feet.
sell 5 foot within the trail.
Yeah.
But I think his request to do both sides is a no.
Yeah.
But I think when you
One
review,
side,
I would suggest you defer this and then review it with the other properties going east, and do a similar decision that you did on that other part of Viewpoint on the south end.
Yeah,
'Cause-
I agree with that. And just after we revisit the idea of maintenance agreements and what that will mean.
Yeah, but you can see that, and it improves the look, so we shouldn't be complaining, but you just have a consistent policy. But for sure, I would err with, not both sides of the trail.
But one option is to come back to Furnish if we want to go up to 5 feet of the trail.
Yes.
But you're going to also allow all the others to do the same.
And that's not that far from the trail, really. I mean, it's pretty close.
I bet that's, what, 10, 15 feet?
so Brittany, how would you resolve this? Would you have them do maintenance agreements?
I think that is a problem that's bigger than right now. I think we have to resolve it. I don't know what the answer is. I don't like to walk on that trail because there are snakes.
Better than alligators.
True. So I just think we have to have a larger discussion about what this means for maintenance agreements and encroachment, and I don't think we can do that tonight.
Okay.
So the next request is,
That's all the way along there, isn't it?
Is this the one that was the triangle they kind of,
this is the one that we said no to.
Yeah, there were 10 homes along
Yeah.
okay.
So that's a no. This is the one where we got an updated request today.
Okay.
Wait, which one is this one?
This is the one that Kurt likes because they have a BYU basketball court.
What's their name again?
The house.
House.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Did you show that BYU?
House. Right here, Marcy.
They redid the cover just for you.
Did you want me to sing the song? Is that what you want?
Right, out? Sure.
Cookers are out.
So they revised their request. See the current request?
Correct, and they wanted to go.
They wanted to go there and then north.
The one's up on the one that the original request is a little bit on a hill, and then it comes down and kind of flattens out to where, and there's what, 3 trees there, Brittany, from what I remember, 3 or 4 trees?
Yeah, something like that.
Do you have at one time I thought maybe we go on a diagonal angle, but Brittany, you're mentioning you don't think the residents up there could be concerned if we kind of go back a little bit?
Yeah, I mean,
If we went straight north from that and straight up,
It'd probably be like more like that.
yeah, that's more what I was thinking, straight
Okay.
up. That you keep it so that those great big trees are still on the city side.
And just disclosure, if it even had a U-view basketball thing, I'd probably still approve it.
So I support this one too.
I'm fine with this one.
okay.
That was
So we're going to say,
This is the Miller?
this is the house, right? And we're going to say yes. Oops. We're going to say yes, and then the notes are going to be
Even the extra request.
extra request, okay, but go north. North.
This is Windsor
And, these below are also part of that original request, I believe. Is that right?
This is the road request right there, or because of the roads that might
Yes.
go through there.
So the next one then is we're getting into Windsor Meadows.
And I think, how many?
Ginger Ford's part of that.
Yeah,
other
there's
one.
several property owners, they're consistent going.
Towards the viewpoint.
Oh,
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
she's part of the nose. Roger is now the viewpoint, or the Windsor Meadows one.
and can we just zoom out just a little bit, so it'll be, I think you have the Harveys and the Smiths, and then there'll maybe be a gap to go to the Howards.
It narrows quite a bit.
Yeah, so there's the Howards, okay. So you have what, 3, so you have the,
Those 3 applied,
yeah,
that one applied.
and then you have 2 in the middle.
In the middle that didn't.
So the question is, it's kind of like what we were trying to do up at Viewpoint with those 2.
Yeah.
Those 2 have not encroached, so those 2 we're looking at have not encroached. They've kind of kept, so,
Let me give a little background on this. This is not too far from where I live, and I've walked in this area many times. And we brought this up before the council, was it 2 years ago, Kurt? And I think at that time, there was issues about how wide the trail corridor would be and also the cost. and I think they're willing to pay the higher costs now. Roger Mickelson was on the original Open Space Committee on which I served back in 2010. So this particular piece of property has been brought up on several occasions. My feeling is this, I think this is similar to that south part on Viewpoint. And you still have a nice trail corridor because you have all the area on the north of that trail that's never going to be surplus. Plus you could put a 5 or 6 foot buffer along that trail. But right now, that's a really hard place for the city to maintain. It's basically they mow the weeds occasionally, as I understand. You can see where some people have planted some, I think those are city trees, if I remember correctly. They've
That's
changed
on
a
the
little
city
bit.
property.
Yeah, it's on city property. But, you know, they've come repeatedly and asked for this. They're willing to pay the higher price. I think you've got still a really nice trail corridor, so I would support surplusing this. And
So
if
you
there's
do
a
have
couple
the-
that don't come in, I think it's the same thing as the south part of Viewpoint, where you just say, we're going to stop maintaining that part.
They have
Yeah.
1 year to come, you know,
Yeah, and they have 1 year.
the purchase,
yeah.
and but let them be aware that there will be no maintenance, no mowing of that property behind their house, because it had been offered to be able to be purchased, but if not, if they decide not to purchase it, it's an area that we've decided not to maintain anymore.
I'm in agreement with you, Scott. I've walked that trail, I've been to Roger's house. I wouldn't per se call it a weed fest, perhaps an eyesore. This is a joke that we've used with
Good
Mayor.
choice, good choice.
Thank you, thank you. But I'm in agreement. I think that, you know, it's just not being used right now, and it could be better maintained by these.
So let me just
neighbors.
ask, so I understand, because on the Viewpoint, I thought we kind of said, hey, let's hold off doing it. Are we saying that we've kind of maybe finalized a little bit what we're thinking here is that we sell the 3 come here, we have 2 that don't, and what we're going to do is we're going to offer that those 2 can buy, but if in 1 year they don't purchase, we're letting them be aware we don't maintain anymore, and then the other person, the other home on the other side can purchase. Is that?
Yes.
Is that
And
kind of?
I agree with that, and it's been a hard area, I think, to maintain, because as you go farther east, they have that beautiful park that's well-maintained by the city. But this area, you know, except for using the trail, that city hasn't tried to maintain that too much.
So with the one difference between this and the Viewpoint, we don't have any encroachments here. You know, the
We do have
Viewpoint had
encroachments there.
But the
That
encroacher
one
wants
does,
to
but
buy.
that's going to be sold. But those 2 have not encroached, and so there's not a concern upon encroachment.
Do we need to worry about water here? Because
A large piece, it's a 1/4 acre to Mickelson's.
well, and yeah, and we've talked before about
Windsor.
putting trees along the road coming into Highland, and I know that water has been an issue there. Would it be even feasible or helpful to say for any of these who are purchasing space this year that they need to hold off on putting in irrigation systems or watering until next year?
What happens if we don't have a good year next year?
Then we saved water for a whole year.
Well, and we're all going to be in the same boat, which
So-
is a water
so-
issue.
So once again, Nathan, the understanding is there were water shares that were provided for this property, even though it was dry-scaped, if you want to say it is natural vegetation.
Correct. Again, delivery issue, we just can't deliver it.
The system size.
So, I mean, that's the only, I'm okay selling it, but we have to be aware that, like, the Mickelsons are getting an extra 1/4 coming onto the PI system. I mean, these are a little larger parcels coming into the PI system.
I agree. And if they decide to grass, I know at one time Roger had talked about putting solar panels or something there.
Yeah, he's told me that, too.
So the one issue is on this property on the left, the northwest corner is right up to the trail. So if we sell and we stay within 5 feet, do we just say go to where there's 5
5
feet and then,
Yeah, I would.
Let me
instead of continue it right up against the
Would we
trail?
want to do a property swap here at all, Nathan, to try to get their little corner to come in so it's not 5 feet from the trail and kind of do a little property swap with them?
No, they haven't fenced that, though. It's not like you have a fence right on the trail.
It's up to the council.
I mean, you understand what I'm saying, is if we have a property line right to the trail, we could do a little property swap and bring it 5 feet from the trail and compensate, they don't have to buy that, and that we get the property, I guess, you know what, we have the property owner on the other side that's already there, so maybe that doesn't work.
Have to do the same thing for
Yeah.
them, which they might be interested in.
I mean, that's a good discussion point.
Can we just direct staff to explore that?
Right.
Now, once again, Brittany, you brought up that is the agreement of the council that we want on these on the surveys that would be done. We're going to try to get one surveyor to kind of give a bid to go do all these, and then we'd break it up amongst those property owners. The property owners would bear the cost 100%. The city is not bearing 50% of the survey costs. Is that what was agreed to also tonight?
I think that's what we discussed,
We
because they
discussed.
can all split up the cost.
And we could put that in the motion when we do this.
So I think that's the end, Mayor.
I don't think staff is having any fun. Are you having fun?
Oh, fun. It's great.
I mean, I just feel like you could be more excited.
They're going to be more excited when we pass the budget and they get raises.
Yeah, because then we get to look at Tyler and his new hairdo.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Poor Tyler.
Okay, we have one more, and that's Amy Thomas.
Let's see where he's at.
She's on the south side of Windsor Meadows.
The hard one.
Oh, there it is, okay.
You do that one, you got to do all of them.
I think that would be a good one to defer, would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
Certainly, depending on how we do maintenance agreements, I could be eligible for that, or whatever your decision is, but it's more.
So, Kurt, what are your concerns? If
Well,
we-
just, if you do
yeah.
that corner, then there's several corners in this subdivision. I think, that was the only reason why I'm thinking, would we need to bring it back? Because you'll start, all the corners then would be surplused. And I don't know if we do one, if there's other things that also come about in the other corners. Do we want to defer it?
This is interesting because in the original discussions with this neighborhood, and this is some years ago, most of the people in these areas weren't interested in any of the property. It's always been the north side. So I'm kind of surprised that this has come up. It could be a new owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if this one needs to be deferred so we can look at what the repercussions would be across the whole subdivision. If
Yeah.
you do this one, it appears all the corners, and I think we need to look at.
I agree with deferring it.
I agree, Kurt. When you and I drove it, it seemed like there were lots of places where that could maybe happen.
And just as a side note, while we're on this, can you move over, move it to the east, so, and then down a little bit? Okay, and then, sorry, up a little bit. See that, see the trees there that run between that first cul-de-sac and the second?
Yes.
We had residents complaining.
Concerned about fire?
Concerned about fire. There's been 3 fires this year on the trail easement for the Murdoch Canal, started by a neighbor, autistic child that's building campfires, and then they get out of control, and then the fire department comes and puts it out. So that exacerbated their concerns for that area. I did talk to Brian Braithwaite, who's going to work with the park committee in the neighborhood and staff to clear out the dead
That
brush.
originally was a ditch.
Yeah,
And that
it was
vegetation
abandoned.
was irrigated from the ditch, but that was eliminated when they piped the canal.
Yeah,
That's what I
so
understand.
There's a lot of foliage in there that's dead. There's a lot that's alive, and I think staff would prefer just to bulldoze it all down, because that's easier.
Mayor, look at the subdivision. It's really interesting. I only see 1 or 2 neighbors, maybe they've encroached, and maybe they really haven't. Maybe it's the city maintaining. We don't see a lot of encroachments here. It's interesting. This is a little older neighborhood, and there's not a lot of encroachments through here,
There's some.
but not like we've seen in other subdivisions.
There's right there.
But is that being maintained by the city, or is that them?
No,
guess
it's
that is
them.
That's them.
Okay.
If it's green.
That's
Okay, I
them.
guess I have to back it up. I was trying to give him a compliment, and now I can't.
There's good and bad encroachment. is
So
what I think
we
you're
are
saying.
done.
I just want to let people know that if we did defer your request, that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It's just we need more time, more research to make sure that we get this right. It might mean coming back and talking with some of your neighbors. But I just want to put that out there, that it doesn't mean a no answer when it comes to deferring. It just means that we want to look back and make the right decision, and we're going to get this taken care of by the end of the year and just go subdivision by subdivision on that.
I'd like to make a little explanation too, because I've been involved with some of these issues for over 10 years. But we love the open space, and I've said this before, but one of the problems when these divisions were, or the subdivisions were designed, and I've talked to Nathan about this in the past, but the design was kind of a problem in some of these neighborhoods, and there were different philosophies. And so what we're trying to do, we're not trying to just surplus open space randomly. What we're trying to do is solve some problems, but the money that is raised by surplusing some of these little orphan properties will go back to actually help our parks and trails. And so it's kind of, we're eliminating what in many cases is a problem area or an eyesore, so that we're raising money to help improve other areas in the open space and the other parks and trails.
Scott, and I'm just going off memory, my understanding is if the property was sold, was in open space, as a council, we decided that it would stay in the open space special service district to service the open
Right,
space
right.
subdivisions. So.
That's what's been decided in the past.
You could continue that, and you could make that part of your motion.
You decided that last meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I say. That was just like in the last week or two, or the last couple of councils, I thought we decided that, so.
Yeah, okay, so I've kept track on this L column, as O is optional, what indicates deferral.
Is this you moving?
Yeah, well, no, I'm moving here, she's moving there, but we're looking at the same sheet. Okay, so column L is where we've been noting yes, no, or defer. O means defer, N means no, and yes means, Y means yes. So I suppose a motion could be...
Rob, how do we need to make this motion? Is it all the yeses, or do we need to go through, since it's a sellable property, do we need to say each individual property name?
Or we
with
just
that?
say all those indicated with a Y are to be sold?
What you're doing now is approving a motion to approve a resolution where you're just saying, we're designating the following properties. And basically, you could say the properties as shown on this, and we'll just have it attached as an exhibit later when we go to finalize it and everyone signs it.
So the exhibit is being kept by the staff, or is this the mayor's?
Would they both have access to it?
Yeah, we'll
But
add it to
and they're the
what's put
same.
on. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the only concern, because this is a live document, because it's Google Docs, how do we make sure this locks and stays as what it is tonight?
Right.
Well, you can go back to Google History and say, use the one at 8:45 tonight.
We also have the minutes where we've recorded each property going through, and Stephanie has handled that very well, I'm sure. So we'll double check, make sure that it's what the council's actually done, but you can just say, we approve it as per our conversation and the exhibit of the spreadsheet that we've been discussing tonight, and that's, you
So
identified it sufficiently.
I would include this then in the motion, and then the originally approved motion, the originally approved list of properties that we went through in the work session, with the stipulations that the trail corridors remain intact, and that we're going to follow the Jordan Valley easement boundary for that property along the Murdoch Canal.
So, but Rob, we couldn't list each individual property if we wanted to. I mean, Kurt likes to make long motions. This is your chance.
You could go through every single one and list it out by parcel number. You could describe it as, we could get legal descriptions up here for each parcel.
Kurt,
Oh,
if you
sorry,
do that,
John,
I'm
be
not voting
quiet.
for you.
For my sake, can we please not do that?
Thus saith.
I think we can do it
So who wants
as
to
long
make
as
the motion?
yeah.
Brittany, you're one of the...
Yes, I will make a motion.
Hey, that's
I
it.
feel so abandoned right now. I make a motion just for the adoption of the designation, just for, that we use our, what are we doing? That we use our Google Doc to sell property? I don't know what we should say.
Highland sellable land document.
Yes.
That has been approved by the council.
As discussed.
Yes, as discussed in the minutes and on the Google Doc. And Rob, what else?
Do we need to put down that the buyers will pay 100% of the survey cost?
Yes.
And using the
Yes.
same survey.
And that we're not going to be disclosing?
Yeah, I think, can we just say through a process determined by city staff?
Kelly.
So the survey's to be 100% paid by the buyer. There's no actual asphalt trails being sold. And if there's any Jordan Valley easements, that we're not we removing any of those or selling any of those properties.
Do we need to put any other contingencies on there about the 5 feet from the trail corridor or about fencing? Or we just keep it as code?
Nope, keep it there, we'll handle it, and when you'll see the final legal description once we get the surveys all done and
Okay,
back,
so now, Rob, let's go back. So here we have, Brittany starts the motion. There's been a couple suggested in part of that motion, but Brittany didn't make those suggestions. Is it all incorporated into Brittany's motion and someone needs to second it, or how is that done?
Brittany, do you incorporate all those into your motion?
Yeah, but I feel really bad for Stephanie.
Well,
Yes.
I think we ought to have
Should we make it more
Stephanie
clear?
I'm feeling really
read
bad
it
right now,
back to
too.
us the best you understand, because this is a complicated thing, and I think we need to get it right.
Okay,
And
I'm
I
going
will
to read
second
back.
it if I understand it.
Let me read back what I've got. It's going to be a little bit sketchy, so you can
Okay.
clarify for me. Councilmember Brittany P. Bills moved that the City Council adopt a resolution to designate the specified list of parcels as disposable. Buyers will use the same surveyor and through a process determined by city staff, ... No asphalt trails are being sold. Jordan Valley easements we are not removing any of those.
The only,
It's a little rough, I
you didn't have
apologize.
done the 100% of the surveys bared by the buyer.
Okay.
Is that okay to
Yep.
have as part of that?
So, Brittany, does that reflect your motion as you have made it?
Yes, it does.
I would like to second that motion.
Motion by Brittany, second by Kurt. I almost got you, Kim.
I caught that.
And that passes unanimously. So I would like to thank council. This was an impossible task, and you did it.
So,
Well done.
one thing I would like to request, Mayor,
Sure.
is, of course, we ought to get a list of the ones we've sold, but I'd like to know the number that have been sold, because I think it'd be
I mean,
very
like right
helpful.
now, we need to know the number?
Well, no, we don't need to know right now, but I would
Well,
like to see that if possible,
It's,
yeah.
Or approve the minutes?
in the original list that we approved, we just approved areas to be disposed of.
And that was 10 areas.
And that was, there were 3 areas, and multiple property owners on some of them. So
Right.
it's hard to know. We know what is potential, but we don't know who's purchased because we haven't even notified them.
Well, I guess I would just like to see, just a kind of a summary of what we've done here, because
That's fair.
sometimes what we think we've done and what happens may be two
Right,
things.
which is good. So
So I
at
think
the
we just
next
need to
meeting-
codify it. I just want to know for sure.
So staff, we'll go through and do a list, and I'll work with Kelly a little bit, and so will Nathan and
Is there
whomever else wants
anything,
to.
staff, that you want us to clarify about the process or about what to do with the ones that we've deferred until later?
Are y'all on the drive right now? On Road 23 for the
Which sheet?
Skidmores?
Yes,
I don't see a letter on there.
and Skidmore's, Row 23, good point. Let me look at their property and I'll tell you. I think that's a no. That was Skidmore's, that's the one where there's the drainage, and we said,
This one, Scott?
did we say no?
I have it
or
under
oh?
defer.
So
Yeah.
that's a deferred.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
wrote, is defer.
Okay. Good catch.
Are we like adding that to what's being put in the minutes?
Well, we've now updated the
Yeah.
list, so we just said the list, so I think we just addressed it.
Okay.
Okay. Next item. You have to come up. You state your name.
To this.
Sorry, state your name.
My name is Brady Giles. So am I to understand that, from what you were saying, that if the property was not discussed here in the work group, it was deferred, and therefore we will talk about it at a different time?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and so I think we're going to do it by subdivision. But we want to make sure that it's done by the end of this year also.
Wonderful.
So if
Thank
there's
you.
just a few more questions or research, or we needed to look into what the neighbors, we're doing it as well to see if there needed to be, just to make sure it's not checkerboard,
Okay, thank
especially
you.
with your property.
That's what I need to understand. Thank you for the time you've taken to come and look and ask questions. Thank you.
And I believe you understand your property was deferred to later on in the year.
That's what I was trying to clarify.
Or discussion,
Yeah.
yeah. Because we did that in the workshop, and so we didn't summarize those very
Yep.
well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There was another gentleman.
It's always pretty.
Peter Kilger. We weren't here for the for the workshop. We didn't realize that was open to the public. So, and I had the impression you were going to summarize the property decisions that were made then. If not, when will we see this complete list?
Well, we actually went through the whole list. The ones that we had talked about went really fast in the meeting. So
I didn't see ours up there.
I don't.
Yours was a yes.
Okay, thank you.
Which one are you?
They're that triangle where they like worked with adjacent
Yes.
property owners.
We're surplusing a lot of
Those-
viewpoint.
Those we didn't specify by name. We just said we're surplusing that whole area, and so you're good.
Mayor, I'd just like to make one comment. Been part of other discussions of disposal of open space or orphan parcels. By far, this was much, we didn't have neighbor against neighbor here tonight. We didn't have, I felt the feelings were much better than what, because the process has changed to how it was being done. It used to be you go get 70% of the signatures of the plat that you live in, bring it to the council, then the council then would make a decision, yes or no, and it caused a lot of commotion, where this has been more council-led, I think, direct with the residents, but it's also why we're also being a little bit more careful in the process, because there was a reason why the council said, hey, we need 70%, versus what's going on. So I want to compliment the council tonight, and well, as those residents, I thought it was a much smoother process than I've seen in the past. What do you think, Scott?
Well, I think it's great. My only concern is, and I don't know, my OCD or my anxieties kind of went up, but I just think it would be really good as soon as we could get these properties that we've decided to surplus listed, because, we have had citizens here that were confused about whether their property, so I think we just need to really clarify that.
We'll need to contact all those who are affected by our decisions tonight, especially in the affirmative to start with, and say you now have the option of buying.
Right. And then, but it'd be nice to let the other people know that we
Yes.
haven't necessarily ruled them out. We want to do more research.
Yes.
We hope to do it soon. So I just think there needs to be clarification so that we don't have a lot of people
Fair.
saying, hey, what's going on? We
Right.
don't understand.
So we'll
Because-
do a description, and we'll publish it. We'll show the list.
And I would also say to staff that whatever research needs to still be done, I'm happy to help and participate, so it's not all on you. So let me know how I can help.
So just to clarify, are you wanting us to put together a list and just post it on the website and in the newsletter, or do you want us to email each of these individuals?
Email.
For the, if we have their emails, and we do on most
Which
of
we
them,
should.
I would just send them a quick email, and then I would do some kind of official notification for the people that have the option to buy, and what the constraints are around it.
But since it's a public sale of land, I do think we should on our website have a list of what we sold.
Or what we
For the
surplus.
citizens.
What we've surplus.
Yeah,
Would
what
that
we've
be part of,
surplus.
though, of our minutes that's approved, or are you talking, Scott, you want to?
Well, I don't care if it's in the minutes or whatever, but I just think it needs to be
I agree.
available for the public to view it, because we did surplus a fair amount of property.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to item.
So when you came up and have, just one question before you got that thing. It says at the top, it says approved acreage and value, is that what we've approved, or is this just still,
No, that's what we did tonight. That's live, and
so how much did we,
we approved
130,000, okay.
1.09 acres.
Let's divide that out by minutes.
Okay, back to item 5. Public hearing and resolution adopting final budget amendments to the Highland City 2020-2021 fiscal year budget, so current year. So thank you for those that wanted to stay. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. We can go pop some popcorn if you'd like. No, see, we did you better. I'm surprised we're done by almost 9. Very good. Okay, Tyler, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Great to be with you tonight. This is a series of presentations that on an annual basis occur for the purpose of making decisions about the city's finances. So there are a number of documents that we've printed for you straight from the packet, but those are available for your reference. We'll try to call those out.
Real quick, Stephanie, did we vote? Did we do a formal vote on that last motion?
No?
What last motion?
The open space property disposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, we're both getting older.
I'm distracted, so I wanted to make sure we were covered.
So I will try to call out the documents for your reference as we go through those parts of the presentations.
And that's what you've left on our desk too, right?
That's correct. You have printed out everything except for the full budget for fiscal year 22. Again, you have electronic access to that, and out of respect to trees, just printed a few copies of that for those that would like that. So, first off, I want to thank you, Council, and extend my appreciation to my colleagues. This is the culmination of many hours of work, and staff have been getting used to a new finance director and have been gracious in bringing me on board. Appreciate this opportunity to serve the city of Highland. So, first, to start with, we're going to discuss the amendments to the final amendments to the current fiscal year budget, fiscal year 2021. And we'll start with a few personnel-related items that impact both the general fund and enterprise funds. Here on this first slide, you just see there's a couple of Parks Department positions that were approved back in February, shortly after we did the mid-year budget adjustments. A total of $32,000. One to onboard a sprinkler repair staff member to replace the incumbent who's going to be retiring. But there's a lot of information to pass on there. Also,
thousands of sprinkler heads.
Oh yes, constantly. Also an arborist that we brought on board.
Now, I learned from the arborist, I always thought they were going to be taking care of our trees, but I heard they also will look at all of our weeds, our sticker bushes, and they're going to be either treating them or putting a plan in place to finally take care of some of these sticker areas that we have that are flattening tires. Is that am I understanding correctly? That's what our arborist will do? So,
our engineer is telling me yes. I'm the Public Works Director, so that's great. So here you see the breakout, about $14,000 of an impact to the general fund and just under $18,000 to enterprise funds. We also had the departure of the previous city engineer, and so there were some vacation payouts that were due there. Okay. With regard to enterprise funds amendments, we identified some road fee projects earlier in the year that had hit the beginning of fiscal year 21. They were actually planned for 2020, looking to see how that would roll out through the end of the year, and need to wrap up the year with a $180,000 adjustment there. Simply a matter of timing. The construction season is cut in half between 2 different fiscal years every year. A minor adjustment there, bond payment that was $500 higher than budgeted previously. Mercer Corner improvements, my understanding there was some resident participation, and this $40,000 represents the city's portion to complete that.
Question, Tyler, explain the bond payment adjustment. I know it's only $500, but I didn't understand what that was.
So the bond payments fluctuate a little bit depending on how much interest is due.
Oh, okay.
And simply before, the budget wasn't sufficient to cover the payment for this year.
Which one is the Mercer Corner improvements again?
It's the one where that corner property was.
The pool guy.
The pool guy that we approved, and then north of that was another one where we said, they're just wanting this little chunk, and then she showed an improvement plan with a park on the west side, and then trees, and then on the east side, there was this little landscaped area.
Yeah, Adonis, it's up by the ball home.
Isn't this the same one where they raised all the money?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was a significant chunk that they contributed to the project.
Except this hasn't been completed, right?
No.
Okay.
I don't think we've started yet, right?
No.
Finally, some unanticipated expenses there with IT. And many of these are not annually recurring, but email archiver renewal, some network updates, and server software, or what make up that $15,000. With regard to the general fund.
So let me stipulate here, if you'd let me, that our filming guy is not getting $13,400 or anything close to that.
That's
most of that is to Blue Line, the vast majority of that.
That's correct. So as the mayor pointed out there, starting off with professional services, filming, and then Blue Line Park amenities work, they're roughly $13,000. Wrapping up COVID expenses that passed through Lone Peak, specifically the fire department, and that's those are expenses that were shared with Alpine, of course, approximately $60,000. North Point tipping, we're finding that the tonnage is increasing, and so that's more expensive. Those bills are coming through more expensive. And finally, with regard to CARES, in consultation with our auditor, determined a more simpler way to manage the pass-through from Highland to Lone Peak earlier in the year. And instead of actually sending cash, this allows the city of Highland to recognize the interest that accrued on those funds as well. So this is primarily an adjustment for balance sheet purposes.
Are we going to see how much we actually brought in last year from the COVID CARES Act versus what was spent versus what we saved, if you want to say?
Yeah, and that will certainly be, as we close out the year, we'll be able to provide a complete accounting of that and provide, honestly, some preliminary numbers much sooner for you.
For the new COVID that's coming, or the new COVID package, so.
Yeah. So happy to take any questions you have on the current year budget specifically, but other than that, recommend that the council hold a public hearing and adopt the proposed amendments to the current fiscal year budget.
I have a
Okay,
question.
so before we go to council comments, can I just open up a public hearing? I want to wrap my hammer. Any member of the public that's here or online that wants to comment on the budget amendments for the 2020-2021 fiscal year? Seeing none? Public hearing closed? Now, go Scott.
I just had a question about the additional construction at Spring Creek Park. You may have just told us about that, but at $65,000, what exactly did that entail?
And I think that's for the fiscal year 22 budget? Is that what you were referring to?
No, it's in this one. Anyhow, that's what I've got. It's at 2021, it's listed down in the resource material, and it says, capital funds, additional construction at Spring Creek Park at a cost of $65,000.
That was just an overage we needed to pay.
Yeah, it just went over 2 fiscal years.
Okay.
We
Because we
did it
didn't finish it till
So
September.
it's the actual construction, but you just spread it over 2 years.
How much does
Okay.
it cost to construct Spring Creek Park?
I know we've sent that out before, but I don't remember it off the top of my head.
535.
We can get it for you if you'd
No,
like.
It was over $500,000.
Yeah, it was 5 something,
Yeah.
5 and change.
The most expensive 2 acres of a park.
Well, we spent $10,000 on Victorview Lift Station.
And we're going to spend,
We're gonna spend
$300,000
more on
more.
Victor View in just staff time recently.
God, it looks like we're going to be spending $10,000 a house there.
That's true.
I'd like to make a motion.
Would love to hear one.
Okay. I move that the city council adopt the resolution amending the fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budget.
I'll second it.
A motion by Kim, second by Scott. We're ready for a vote. All right, that passes unanimously. Next item. You're
Great.
doing good. Keep it up, Tom.
Thank you so much. This item is somewhat of a formality, but it's important in the overall structure of governmental fund accounting. The city maintains, as you know, a general fund, as well as a number of enterprise funds, such as those dedicated to maintaining utilities. So spending from enterprise funds is limited to the purposes that those are designated for. In other words, the city cannot simply make up differences willy-nilly in the general fund by transferring from enterprise funds without going through the process that we're pursuing here today. So the proposed transfer represents the estimated cost, $108,000 of watering public owned property and parks, park areas. It is funded by users of the PI system. We calculated that here this year at approximately $2 per month per customer. If we did not make this transfer, that would mean that the general fund would be bearing directly the cost of this expense. So this type of transfer is permissible once we go through this public hearing and the process to approve that. And it is a typical transfer, not just for Highland City, but other cities on an annual basis.
So I'm not an accountant, so I just was kind of trying to wrap my mind around this. So the general fund is paying money into the pressurized irrigation fund for irrigating the parks and whatever we do on the trails, right? And then now we're transferring it back from the pressurized irrigation fund to the general fund. And it's just a counting deal. I mean, so really, we never paid to water the parks.
And it's the city paying itself, right? But yes, that's an accurate representation.
And it just means it didn't come out of our general fund revenue sources like property tax or sales tax, that the watering the park is being funded by the people that are paying for the pressurized irrigation. And so because that's not a permissible use unless a council approves it, that's why we have to do this every year.
Correct.
And that was probably clear as mud as well.
It's a requirement by the state auditor that we do it.
Yes.
Well, it is pressurized irrigation,
Yes.
so you're good.
Yeah, it is money. Yeah. Okay, if there are no questions, I'm going to open it up for a public hearing. Public hearing open. Comments? Nope. Any online? Nope. Okay, public hearing closed. Council?
Can I ask just a clarifying, Tyler? Okay, so once again, we're moving from the pressurized fund, 108, to the general fund. Why is the general fund due the 108,000?
Because it paid it.
Because of the cost of watering the park areas.
See, to me, I thought it'd be the opposite. The general fund paying 108 to pressurize.
Which we did.
Okay.
And now we're getting it back.
Now we're getting it back.
That's what you're saying.
That's why I
In order to
was
get it back,
struggling with
we
that,
have
too.
to approve that.
It's government, Kurt.
It's audit, it's more auditing, right?
Yes.
So I'll make the motion if the public hearing's over. Is it over?
It's closed, yeah, I'm ready for a motion.
Okay, I move that the city council adopt the resolution authorizing the transfer of $108,000 from the pressurized irrigation fund to the general fund for fiscal year 2022 budget, right?
I'll second.
Very good. A motion by Scott, second by Brittany. We're ready to vote. So I wonder if our 2-Minute Tuesday guy can make that water any less muddy. No. And Jeff, if you haven't watched any of his videos, you should. He's very entertaining. He's really good. And if we're really lucky, he'll get up and dance for us tonight, along with Tim and Kurt.
What's that?
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
we could just
dance.
leap off the DS and do splits on the floor, right? And then it's a good thing fire department is really close, because I know at least one person that would not be able to get up. Okay, we are ready for the next item. Mr. Tyler.
Great. So you have in front of you the proposed fee schedule, and I've invited Candace, as she's walking up, Candace Linford, our treasurer, to make this presentation for us. Candace literally is the glue that held finance together, as we went without a finance director for a couple of months and then getting me onboarded. She deserves plenty of credit for putting up with me, but appreciate her willingness to come and provide information on this subject tonight.
And just so everyone knows, she really is awesome. Really, really, really awesome, awesome, awesome.
Okay, well, thanks for letting me take a minute and talk to you. So this is dealing specifically with next year's budget, which begins July 1st. So let me go ahead and skip. Everything remains the same except for these bullet points. Some of these items we have been taking care of, but they just had been missed in previous versions. So commercial, we do charge a $500 deposit fee for it, always have. We just wanted to clarify that that's in there. Based on the study that we completed for impact fees, we have updated our fee structure to include the changes to parks, pressurized irrigation, public safety. We've specifically broken out police and fire, so those are separated, and you can see that. Roads has actually come down.
Okay, so I appreciate, so
Yeah.
Tyler, just on the parks, we're now increasing from 4,378 to 5,854. Every home that's going to be built in Highland has to pay that. So we have the 700 homes coming over here by Lone Peak. Every one of those homes will be paying that 5,840, correct?
Correct.
And that will go towards our bond, is that correct?
Bond until that's paid off, yes.
And then have you calculated based off of what building permit, do we feel like we might start having extra money coming out of that parks at some time?
That's something we can certainly look at on that time.
Because we're looking at kind of finishing a park. Doesn't it have to go to capital of a park, or can you go and put in for playgrounds? You can't replace playgrounds, right?
Has to go, it's very specific in your impact fee facility plan what those are.
The reason I'm asking is we're looking at Mountain Ridge Park. If also we start having this, we pay off the bond and then we start increasing
It won't be that soon.
That's 2027.
Okay, I just want, getting hopeful, okay. I'm sorry, I'm not depressed, go ahead.
You're good. All right, so we've broken those out specifically for the impact fees, and we've also separated out single family from multifamily, specifically dealing with Ridgeview.
So can you answer, we have sewer, it says central sewer and southeast sewer. Why is there a different sewer fee, and where would that come into effect?
So I may defer to Nathan on this one.
So we have two different areas. We have two different service areas. The southeast is essentially Ridgeview.
Okay.
Because we have very specific capital projects associated with that development.
Okay.
And those are the reimbursement costs. I mean, they're impact fees, but they're the costs associated with providing the capital projects to that development. Central is the rest of Highland, and that would be their cost associated with growth.
I'd like to point out, with regard to the impact fees, these are all consistent, of course, with what was approved previously in this fiscal year. If the council wanted to reassess those, would be an extensive process and certainly could not be done just
Right, but we can change a fee during the course of a year.
Correct.
For whatever, like,
And you have down fees, you just were talking about roads. We have senior restricted housing, and we have a lower fee for that versus also if they, this road fee is only, so it's attached 6 to 8 units. Is this a fee only for Ridgeview? Is that?
Dealing specifically with the multifamily, but
Okay.
currently that's only in Ridgeview, yeah.
well, we do have multifamily over
Yeah,
here
over
behind Arctic Circle
Yeah, yeah. Does that answer your
and
question?
Toscano.
Okay. So, any other
I'm
questions?
sorry, Nathan, the $18.50 charged a month for the road fee, will that be paid by, so they're paying into this road fee attached and senior, plus they're going to be paying $18.50 a month?
So what you're seeing is impact fee, totally
Okay.
separate than
So,
the road
but each
fee.
of those homes,
Yes.
if they're
Correct.
multifamily, that they're going to be paying the road fee?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Culinary water meter, the flat lid upgrade has increased from $40 to $47.20. So not a huge difference, but it is called out. I also called out on business licenses, the $90 for short-term rentals, just to clarify.
That's Airbnb.
Right, exactly right. Cemetery, our 3% increase is noted there, just to take care of the perpetual care fund. That's built in. Highland Fling, there were various changes there. And we're very grateful for Aaron and Corinne going through and assessing those. All right, and the library, we called out the late kit or late Kindle return, same, just to make it same as what we do for the movies. Planning and zoning, we eliminated the 280 development review committee fee, and then we included the group home review fee at $485. Utility charges that were already passed, I apologize, this is different. Increased, this is mainly for the miscellaneous, so dealing with garbage can removal, those kind of things. Let's see. So at this point, we just recommend that we hold the public hearing and that we adopt the 2022 fee schedule.
Any questions for Candace?
So Candace, it has down vendors 3 hours. Are you talking specifically for the Highland Fling, or what would that vendor's 3 hours be?
Erin, do you mind helping that one?
Actually, it must be, because they have another thing on for the vendors underneath the Fling it.
I was
So-
going to say, is that, I'm sorry, I thought I had the document up and I'm working on pulling it up now. Is that underneath Fling?
It's on page 5. It's underneath civic events.
Oh, so sometimes we hold like special events, like extra movies in the park and things like that. It's just when we bring in a vendor for that type of an event.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can I just make one comment?
Sure.
So embedded in this is our new culinary water fee that we've approved in the past. And I had an interesting experience because in the whole time I've served on the council, I have never had anyone come up to me and thank me for raising a fee. But I had that happen today. They said, "We think it's great you raised the culinary water fee." So I thought that I'd just pass that on. I've never had that happen before.
Well, it is one of the most, honestly, I feel, having come from utilities, that water's life, and so we should invest in it. We really, really should, so thanks for that comment.
Awesome. So I will open up a public hearing on this subject. Any comments? Going once, twice, 3 times, sold? No comments? Public hearing closed. Council, discussion or a motion? I would entertain a motion.
I move that the City Council approve the resolution adopting the fiscal year 2022 fee schedule.
I'll second it.
Motion by Brittany, second by Scott. We're ready to vote. And we're done, and that passes unanimously. Next item, resolution adopting the certified tax rate for fiscal year 2021, or 21-22, sorry.
Thank you. As we noted in the packet, Council, the county was delayed in publishing the certified tax rates. The code requires a bit of a process. The county assessor provides some information to the county auditor, which is where the delay originated. That's supposed to take place by June 1st. It did not. Then the county auditor was not able to meet their deadline by June 8th. Unfortunately, that's the person that is taking the brunt of the phone calls and whatnot, but has been great to communicate with us, with me, as we reached out. They were able to provide that information yesterday. So that
And
we're able to
provide you an opportunity to scare the wits out of me.
Yeah.
Inside joke.
So the rates, as I mentioned, were made available yesterday. And the rates for Highland City General Operations and the library, are noted on my slide, but not up here, so those rates for general operations, the information are .000975.
So it dropped. Is that the total?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's for general operations. The anticipated revenue off of that is $1,848,469.
Okay.
For library, .000147. Anticipated revenue of $278,692. And then combined, .001122. And so that is the combined number that dropped from .001216. Anticipated combined revenue, $2,127,161.
So unless council wants to take credit for that, the primary credit goes to the value of our property increasing, and then the rates go down.
Good job, council. I just want to give the council congratulations.
Yes. Well, I think maybe we need to explain this, 'cause it took me a long time to understand this, and we've got candidates in the audience. But what happens is the county assessor, of course, assesses the value of property, but the goal is to kind of keep the property tax the same every year, except for maybe growth in the city, which we saw reflected here. And so when property values go up, the certified tax rate goes down to balance that out. So I just think that's kind of, I don't know, it took me a long time to really understand that.
It's not what people think. They think
Right.
revenue goes up when your property value goes up, and that's
Well, and it's also then makes it so that our property taxes aren't keeping up with inflation, which ends up being
Right.
problematic.
Yes, but I actually like the system because it makes us justify getting more money when we need more money.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing. But people miss the fact that you're actually, every year we don't raise taxes, you make money because inflation is going up, but we're not taking more of your money. Sales tax is indexed for inflation because it's a percentage of the sale, but property tax is not. Actually, 70% of our revenue comes from sources that do not adjust for inflation.
So the only way we make any difference is by growth
Correct.
right now, unless we change things.
Yes, well, we're 90, when everything that's approved is built, we'll be 90% built out.
So Tyler, I had some individuals, and mainly the candidates, kind of asked this. As we forecast, now we have some growth coming, like, Scott has mentioned, I was always told, Scott, that like, okay, if you went and said that your certified tax is $1 million and you don't add another home into the city, you'll only get the 1 million.
That's
It's
correct.
only the houses or the growth you have that keeps coming in. So the question is, as we look at our budget, and I understand this last year we had COVID, we had a little bit of growth because of sales tax, but the question came, and I think a lot of the residents, as we're forecasting in the future, and as we start, and I understand there's just dartboards with growth, but as we say, hey, we might have 150 building permits or 200 building permits next year, do we anticipate next year we might need a tax increase, or are we looking 5 years down the road? Or, hey, as long as we have the growth of 150 homes a year, we're okay?
Well, that's a really good question, Kurt, and something that the wrong decision will certainly impact us down the road. Right now, we have a lot of one-time money that we've seen year over year. COVID, ARPA, COVID Part 2, Part 3, and then some sales tax windfall. But ultimately, there will come a point where the building revenue is going to dry up, right?
As long as we have is there a certain number of units they need to be building to almost kind of keep up with? I mean, if we kind of project, is there any guess that way? And I understand these are all guess. We're throwing darts, and we're not hitting the bullseye. We're just kind of hopefully hitting at least the target a little bit.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at the history year over year, but I think historically we've seen 100 to 150 homes. Nathan can correct me if I'm speaking out of turn there.
About 100.
And if we have that, do we seem that we're not going to be increasing taxes because that growth helps us, or are we going to start? I mean, the reason I say this is 2 years ago when Commissioner Bills and Commissioner Rodella and Commissioner Ball ran, we were thinking this next year we needed a tax increase. It was forecasted in 2022.
You're asking a question that's much more complicated than a simple, hey, we can average X amount of homes and we can get this amount of revenue.
Percentage
and
dollar
we're gonna be
amounts that
okay.
come in. And
It's
You have
what
to
you
remember-
spend too.
So we're going to get into the crunch when you're mayor.
And you have to
Next
remember
4
that
years.
building permit revenue,
you're on the council.
you have to treat building permit revenue as one-time revenues. You can't treat it as ongoing and fund operation maintenance and things like that with that. It's designed just to pay for expenses related to building and things like that. So that's a discussion that we need to have separately when we have time to get into and show what we're doing and show how the budget's working and actually do some real projections, but we can't answer that right
And
now.
a big piece of it is, what does the council decide to spend money on that we aren't, like, are you building new parks, or are you going to build a super duper splash pad, a rec center?
And what the needs are moving
Right.
forward. Yeah.
So, and it's hard to project. And then one of the studies that we did showed that after 10 years, somewhere between 10 and 20 years, any new subdivision starts losing money, because now you have to go in and repair roads. That's when you start having your bigger road expenses.
I mean, we do have our,
There's no easy answer.
what is it,
Second.
2-year-old general fund study that talks about the possibilities and the future and what it could look like.
Yes, and so that can be updated, which we will do with our current circumstances, because it certainly didn't forecast CARES money or our sales tax bump or even, when we originally did it, I don't think the public safety fee was in there either. But it was updated later, but I know when we first did it,
There was a
it
number
wasn't.
of things that weren't in
Yeah.
there. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions that council will need to ask and answer. So,
But Tyler, there is nothing from the CARES money that we received that we committed to really, that we thought would keep coming. It was more of expenditures at that time I mean,
All
we-
one
we've been
time.
very concerned, I mean, as we're getting ready for budgets, I mean, it's a budget night, and I think we gotta make sure, I mean, and I'll be very open, I was very nervous as we've added employees, because that starts setting fixes, but hopefully as these new homes come in, they'll also start providing, some of their fees to help paying for some of that, but it's always, I'm seeing some growth that's happened, I mean, our engineering department, we've added another employee, in our public works and things, I mean, we're having some growth, but that growth comes with some fixed costs, and so it's just trying to be careful.
Yep.
I've got a quick question. So on this certified tax rate that we just got yesterday, did we get it published in time that it's in the public, it's been noticed to the public? Because it's not in my copy of the agenda. I guess it's just, we need to approve it, but have we done enough public notice of it, Rob? Was it published?
We don't certify it till August, right?
Well, don't we pass it today?
No, we adopt this, you have to adopt the certified tax rate by June 22nd.
Correct.
It was on the agenda, it just a specific amount wasn't, because we didn't order
That's
it.
my question. We don't
And
have the
that's-
specific amounts in the
that's
agenda.
sufficient.
When you have to do a much more intensive notice process when you increase taxes, because otherwise
Right.
your revenues stay flat, and you're
We're not
actually
changing it.
decreasing property taxes.
And we have satisfied the requirement for notification by publishing that there would be a public hearing tonight. And then in the motion that you make, you are identifying the certified tax rate. So although it was not available in time for posting with the packet, we've met the requirements for notification.
Thank you.
Okay,
So-
I'll make a motion if I could.
Yes.
I move that the city council adopt the certified tax rate for Highland City as the total one is 0.001122. And for general operations is 0.000975. And for the library is 0.000147 for the 21-22 certified tax rate.
I'll second.
Motion.
Did we hold a public hearing, staffs? Okay, thank you.
Well, we're not, on the minutes or the agenda, it doesn't say we have to do a hearing on the certified tax rate. It just says resolution.
I apologize, we do need to do a public hearing.
Okay, so public hearing open. Any comments? Public hearing closed.
But again, this is a problem, we didn't advertise it.
Motion was made and seconded. We haven't voted yet, so I think we're good.
I'm sorry, I don't believe that we did need to hold a public hearing for the certified tax rate.
It's for the budget, but not for the rate.
Correct.
Because what does it
Not
make
raising
a
it.
difference for people to say anything?
Anyway, it
about
doesn't matter. We did it,
Yeah.
whether we needed to or not. So any other comments? Then we're ready for a vote. Okay, that passes unanimously.
Mayor, can you tell me again, who made the motions on
Motion
that?
by Kurt, second.
No, I did.
Oh, no, sorry.
Scott?
I'm looking at Scott and saying Kurt. Motion by Scott, second by
Kim.
Kim.
Thank you.
Or Brittany.
They're interchangeable.
Whichever one you want.
Last agenda item for tonight, other than staff communications. So go Tyler.
All right, so final of the five. Here, I'd like to highlight some changes specifically that council has requested and staff have identified. Since the tentative budget was presented and to the council, the packet included all the detail on each item that changed, but we want to highlight some of those here. You do have in front of you a couple of summaries. One is the summary by fund. It has green and blue headers on that. Also have spelled out the, as required, the capital projects to the next including this year plus the next 3 fiscal
So,
years.
Tyler, I had a question, and maybe as a council, I thought the 150 we were going to put towards playground equipment, is that coming out of the open space fund they go to open space playgrounds? I mean, maybe that's when some of my questions was that where, is the 150 out of the general fund, or is it out of the open space fund?
We do have playgrounds that are in parks that aren't open space parks.
Okay,
Right.
I'm just trying to remember when we visited about this.
So this is just out of the general fund. We haven't prioritized the open space yet. One of the ideas we're looking at, and that Fred Philpott is studying for us, is actually a perpetual fund that can help fund some of those playground replacements based off of the money from the open space sales that you approved tonight and the ones that we've collected already to try to do some generation out of that. But that'll be an amendment that we'll have to do. This would just cover the funding for non-open space parks.
So just to help me understand this, Nathan and Tyler, we might have this in our budget now, but when we decide to spend the money, it has to come back to council to be approved to spend.
Oh, yes.
I'm just, because like the tree replacement, I mean, when we saw $750
Have to approve the contract.
Yeah, I was going, yeah, that might be, $750 per tree is kind of a little expensive, and maybe.
Actually, that's cheaper than we thought, but that's okay.
$750 is cheaper than I thought.
Well, that includes removal and disposal and any repair of the sprinkler lines and all that stuff, so.
So, can I just kind of
Yes.
point of clarification here? So, I believe on the council request for the 150 for playground equipment, 150 for tree replacement, came from the discussion we had, because the original budget you presented, we would have a 35% reserve, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And so we said, and I certainly brought it up.
30%, but.
Yeah, 30%, but we basically said, well, let's use not so much in the reserve and maybe go ahead and repair some of these things. And that's where this comes from. That's where the discussion originated, if I understand correctly, right?
That's correct.
So we're basically lowering the amount of the reserve some because we want to go ahead and work on these things sooner than later.
That's correct.
So I would also ask those watching or looking in the future at this presentation to read more than just the first line of that second bullet, because that would scare you. Council requests $150,000 each.
Oh.
So what are you going to do with your $150K, Brittany?
Oh, I have big plans.
Oh.
Playground equipment covered in Christmas lights. It's going to be amazing.
Obviously, Christmas lights.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be your ultra soda machine.
I'm not sharing my soda.
Oh.
No, I'm not doing that.
It might be good to clarify some of this in the minutes, though, because it does look like the council is.
But you just each four, and then you
Well,
have the
I think it's clear.
$150,000 for playground equipment,
150
$150
for tree replacement.
So I just encourage people to look at the two bullets below. Because
And I was trying to get the city to surplus some land to me, that wasn't true either, but.
For the playground equipment, if you need a person on the committee to help with replacement equipment and looking over those designs, I would be happy to help out.
We have strong opinions about playground equipment.
We do.
And I think that would be
And
a wise
experience.
decision.
Well, is it only playground? Could it also go to benches and things that way, where you think?
Kim has experience with the actual equipment, and I have experience with the benches.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, there was a study that was done. I remember we went through all the parks. There was a whole park study done a couple of years back that might help us, so.
You mean the one we discussed 2 weeks ago?
No, the one that we did with Tim Irwin that was done in September.
Yes, same one.
Okay.
That we had all this costs associated. No, seriously, so this is just the actual slide, tic-tac-toe, whatever you want to call it. But
Nope. Ninja Warrior Playground, coming your way.
You can't do tic-tac-toe anymore.
That is your mother's playground, not ours. Big
No.
ideas. It's going to be awesome.
Remember, we have a budget, not each.
We can work with the budget.
we can spend as much as you guys want. It's your budget.
Right.
It's
So, next,
Okay.
I wanted to point out also another important change since the tentative budget obviously finalized employee benefits. And happy to report that the rates, overall rates, stayed the same, which is unheard of generally. So we're pleased, and employees are grateful for the investment that you're making in them and their families. That resulted in a savings of almost $41,000 compared to the tentative budget from before. So that's one thing that you're seeing there. We've included the expense for the Mitchell Hollow Trail. We had previously the transfers going from the general fund to open space to take care of that, but made sure that corrected that omission there. Put the expense in.
So that was one question, when you responded back about open space. Now, when you say the 167, it's not going to open space special service district fund, because that Mitchell Hollow Trail is, I guess, part of it, but it's going to be in the new subdivisions and not open space.
It's a community trail.
And that would be a community, do you understand what I'm saying, is that you have Hidden Hollow that was an open space community that has a trail, but I call it where you go, we have the little stream that's going behind the new Mill Haven. Mill Haven's not an open space.
That's what they did. It's now coming out of general fund.
Okay, that's what you're saying. I just want to make sure that that's a general fund, not an open space fund.
Correct. We have included some funding for the membership in the Lone Peak Business Alliance, pressurized irrigation meters, again, timing of delivery and whatnot, that we anticipated some shipments here this current fiscal year won't hit until next year. And then providing vehicles for the new positions that the council has approved, much of which hits the enterprise funds. So there is some that hits the general fund, but considerable majority of that will hit the enterprise funds.
So we're anticipating, when it says 40K each, you're anticipating 160,000?
Correct.
So as we look at this is some new jobs. Now, building inspector, are you saying we're going to have two, or did the building inspector not currently have a truck?
So this is the second building inspector.
Okay, so the second building inspector. So these are just, it's interesting, we've bought a lot of trucks. We use CARES money, I think, to get some trucks. I think before we had some leftover money, but we've been updating a lot of the public works vehicles, so.
And some of those updates have been accelerated by accidents.
Do you think you could ever get rid of that truck that was in an accident that sits on the lot? You know what truck I'm talking about. Everyone passes it on the way to the city building.
On 56, over here on the old
Yeah.
water.
Over here by the water.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So one of the things we're actually looking at is some of those positions we may be able to lease. Remember that lease we did last year? We're looking at that, if it's an option.
So if we have an employee that gets in an accident, I'm sure we have insurance to protect, but do we have collision insurance on our own vehicles to get it replaced that way?
Yes.
So this accident truck was replaced with a new truck?
And I'll drive the fire truck very carefully.
It's just really wants to drive a fire truck. Do we have a toy fire truck you can just have her,
But Kurt, it's just like your insurance, you only get so much amount out of it, it's not replacement, right? So.
Okay.
In my previous life in the city of San Antonio, I worked in the department that, risk management, that dealt with. Let me tell you, our employees take a lot better ownership and personal pride in how they're treating city property here, which I'm most grateful for. We have included in the packet, and you have in front of you the detail of capital projects coming up. But these are consistent with the information that we've shared in rate studies previously, so there's no surprises there. But here, showing you the summary, the high level of in those four funds, the projected expenses of the projects that we anticipate here the next 3 years after this year. So after we factored in the council requests for trees and playground equipment and also trimmed out some savings, The budget, we anticipate roughly $248,000, $248,000 of net revenue after expenses. Of course, council can, at mid-year adjustments or otherwise, allocate those funds to expenses or allow those to go to the fund balance, which would be approximately 2% beyond the 25 that is currently there. We also wanted to point out that we've heard your inquiries and requests for more information and more clarity as to where funds have originated and the potential or the designed uses for funds, capital funds and whatnot. And so we began that, and we'll continue to research the accounting and other resources to inform you what the intent may have been, and as the council sees fit to identify capital plans moving forward to be consistent with that. So we anticipate getting that information to you here later this fall once we've had a chance to go through that thoroughly. So happy to take any questions that you have.
I've got 2 or 3 questions. When I was, and I probably should have asked this before, but I was reading back through all the details of the budget. And again, Tyler, I want to compliment you on the new organization of the budget. I think it's much easier to understand and interpret. But I was just wondering on revenues, and I'm going to line 103418, the Public Works inspection fee. And actually, there's several fees in there where the actual year-to-date this year to 6/21 was like $74,000, and we only had $25,000 budgeted, but next year is $25,000 too, but we've collected $75,000 this year. I just didn't understand why there'd be such a big drop. I also kind of had that same question about the final review and the preliminary review, because it seems like year-to-date, those fees, we've collected a lot more than what we're budgeting for next year. And I just maybe either Kelly or Nathan can explain that to me. I just wondered why it seems like we got a lot of growth and things going on. I was just curious why these fees we're budgeting much less intake. Does that make sense? Less revenue.
Yes. Let me jump to that, and I can go over those. 1038, right?
Well, I looked at, the ones I looked at was 103415, 103418, and 103421.
Okay, 1034, public works inspection fee. So what that is, that's designed to cover when somebody comes in and they do a new subdivision.
Right.
They apply for, when they do their civil inspection plans, they apply for and do that, they pay a fee, and that's to cover the cost of staff going out and doing the inspections.
Right.
That's what that's for. So we're looking at a combination of what do we think is coming in within that next fiscal year. So they have to go through a zoning maybe, and a preliminary plat, and they have to do a final plat and their civil reviews. So when you're looking at from that framework, let's take Ridgeview, for example.
So we have Ridgeview and the Millhaven.
You have
properties.
Ridgefield and Millhaven. We've already collected the fees for those two developments. So Ridgeview would have to go through their next phase, would have to go through that preliminary plat and the civil design review all before the next, and before a year from now.
Right.
And so it's a little bit of a stretch, but they do fluctuate between each year. And so it's almost impossible to guess. Sometimes we go and we'll guess 25, we'll guess 30, and we'll hit 10. And so it just kind of fluctuates.
So you're doing very conservative because it sounds like the border property is being accelerated.
Yes, it is.
And so we may be collecting more. So, okay, I think that's helpful.
So it's really a reimbursement cost.
Right.
And we don't do a lot of budgeting on that because it just goes to our staffing costs.
So I was just kind of surprised because I would thought with all the growth that those would stay a little higher than what you, but I guess it's just being conservative. So in the next subsection, court fines, is there some reason why with the growth of the city that both the police in Highland, well, Lone Peak, I guess, so it'd be Highland and Alpine, anticipate there'll be less fines. I mean, I'm trying to get them to patrol Canal Boulevard, and they have been, I appreciate that, but it seems to me like the fines would stay the same, or are they just not going to patrol the roads? I just, yeah.
Yeah, good question. You know, I would default a little bit to Chief William on that, but it's just a trend that we saw, and it could be a COVID trend with it, don't know yet, but that's why we reduced it, is because the trend that we saw over the last year. Don't know
So
specifics.
that revenue may be increased.
It come back up. It could
Right.
come back up.
Okay. So it seems to me what I've always observed is the staff tends to budget very conservatively on what anticipated revenue we're going to receive. Certainly last year, because all of a
Yes.
sudden we had $500,000 more in sales tax. So I think that's probably wise budgeting. But I just was curious why there were such big drops in some of these. Okay.
We appreciate those questions, and each of you have been good to engage throughout the process. That way, that helps us to know our stuff and validate that our methodology is on par. So.
Well, the other thing I want to say, Tyler, that I really appreciate, and I think this is a big change, but at the end of every enterprise fund, you've noted down what's left in that fund. And so we have a better concept about what are in our reserves, which I think has been very helpful. Because a lot of times I've kind of had to say, okay, what's in the reserve? And we kind of, but this is very helpful. Okay.
Any other questions? Then I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, on this one, we do need to have a
That's all
public
right.
hearing.
All right.
Thank you.
My extra doesn't count. So public hearing on the budget open. I will note, I've said this before, but whenever I do posts on budget, it gets about a quarter of the read of my other posts. So the public is somewhat interested in budgets at various times, but generally not. So seeing no comments and seeing nothing online, we're closing public hearing and ready for a vote.
I'll make a motion.
The motion.
I move that the City Council adopt the resolution approving the final budget for fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Kim, second by Kurt. We are ready to vote. Okay, so go ahead and just vote verbally. Yes from Tim, and we can reveal the rest. That passes unanimously. We're on to discussions, mayor and council communication items. I believe, Nathan, you're going to talk about Mitchell Hollow baseball field use policies.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes.
I just have a question really quick on the fees, and this just has to do, I know that we talked about open space survey costs, and we passed that with that motion, but then on the fees, we have the open space purchase survey costs split with Highland City, and we passed that also, so I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Good catch.
We're good?
Good catch. Very good catch.
That's it.
Very good catch. Well done. Okay. Nathan, do you want to take that? Item A, the Mitchell Hollow baseball field.
Sure, I just want to give you a brief update on where we're at with the reconstruction of the infield for Mitchell Hollow. I'm kind of excited about this project. My head's peeling because of it. Thanks to Andy. Anyways, if you recall, we started discussing this back in October. Council approved a concept. We have a generous resident who is donating and reconstructing through his construction company the infield at Mitchell Hollow. It was a grass, he's turning it into dirt. He's actually removed it, removed the soil and the sod, and built it back up like a regular dirt. It's going to be, one of the better fields in at least northern Utah County. So some items left on for phase one, enclose and lock the field. If you look at Heritage, the field at Heritage, it's all enclosed. They'll be doing that with fencing. Unfortunately, we've already had damage to the infield. We've had, it's kind of frustrating. Almost feels like we can't have nice things. We've already had graffiti in the restrooms. Thank you. The new restrooms at Highland Glen. But we've had either dirt bikes or something already into that dirt infield. So it's pretty frustrating. We've already had hoses and connections and stuff stolen down there that they use. So enclose and lock the field. They'll be doing a batter's box. Their goal is to try to get somebody to donate a turf round where the batter up guy can, on deck guy, sorry. It's late and I quit caring about baseball a long time ago. Anyways, Todd would shoot me if you hear me say that. But anyways, batter's box there, or they will be doing dirt in that area. Rip the sod out and do dirt. Got a movable pitching mound, and they still have the bases to do. So that's kind of where we're at this point. The person who's donating is part of a group of teams called Clutch Baseball. Now, what that is it's very competitive, but it has a different set of age groups, okay? So, and he coaches one or two teams, but there's multiple teams with that. For maintenance, we will mow the outfield. We'll continue to mow the outfield, and they will maintain the infield. There's a shed there. They replace the shed. They're going to get a donation to replace the shed with a lock. I guess it caught fire a few years ago, so they're going to replace that. But they'll have a machine to go in, and one of the things they'll do, they're actually going to GPS, so they have it's actually the second time they're going to do it, because the first time the guy wrecked it, but that's another story. The infield, so it's all graded correctly and everything. We will do the reservations, so it'll be a reservation-based system. Right now, the teams that he will use it will use 3 days a week, basically from about 6 to 9. And then it'll be open for anybody else to use based on a reservation system during the summer. Winter and spring, so it'll be open fall for anybody to use based on that reservation system. And then winter and spring, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 3 to 6. Then it would be open any other time. So all other times would be open by reservation. So this is the preliminary plan right now. So it's quite a contribution that he is making to our facilities.
What's on the preliminary plan? What's the anticipated length of time? I mean, are we talking 10 years? We talking 5?
I got that far yet.
Okay.
So our current field rental policies that you saw is if you're and these are wrong. I totally messed up because I was going to put it in a nice fancy spreadsheet and it didn't work. So I will go to what other cities do while Aaron looks that up for me. And this is real tiny and I can't see it either. So thank you. Lehigh charges $27 per hour, and a 4-hour block is $87. They do charge a $40 prep fee, and they require a $30 per hour deposit. And that goes up, prep fee on Saturdays and holidays goes up. Provo, $30 per hour, $75 a 4-hour block, full days $150. Field prep is included in those. Then you see the deposit for single-day tournaments and leagues and so forth. Pleasant Grove, 4-hour block is $100, full day is $150. And this is per field. All these are per field. And then deposit is $100. And then you can get a discount of $25 if you're a resident. They were the only city that we found of these 4 that offered a discount for residents. Spanish Fork, $25 an hour, full day was $125. But full payment was due at the time of the contract. So you come in, you sign the contract, and you do full payment there. And then you have the field prep. So going back to what we charge for nonprofits, $5 per hour if they're going to do a practice, $10 per hour for competition or clinics, and $75 per day to rent the field for the whole day. And I think there was a $25 striping if we stripe the field. For profit, it goes up to $15 per hour for a practice, $30 per hour for competition or clinics, and $225 per day for rental of baseball fields. So one of the challenges that we have had with fields is legitimate people coming in and reserving them, paying their fees, and then go to show up. Well, sorry, I'm here, I'm not leaving. And we've had those conflicts. That happens about half the time from what I gathered today. So we've thought about different ways to make this work. We've thought about doing the real estate home lock, where you have the code and somebody can put in and then the key drops out and then you can get in. That would control that. Anyways, that's kind of where we're at right now. I know I've had a couple conversations with a couple of you about, about this fees and looking at those fees and are they enough and what do we want to charge. I expect the field to be done in the next week or so. We plan on posting a big sign by reservation, make it very clear that the way it works.
So since much of this happened by personal funds, are we going to have some sort of plaque or acknowledgement of that, or did they want that, or?
Not really. I'll ask him. I'm trying to work on that side. I'm trying to work through a business partner to do something small and nice, but
there needs to be some sort of acknowledgement.
I agree.
I mean, I think it's wonderful when people do this for the city.
Yeah.
So I know, are we going to discuss fees now, or is this just kind of a presentation?
Concept. It's kind of a report and a concept.
Okay.
And getting some kind of direction from y'all what you want to do.
So since this is discussion items, I'd like to bring up something that you touched upon.
Okay.
I think we're suffering a lot of monetary loss in the city from vandalism.
Yes.
And I think as a council, we need to discuss ideas to kind of either, one, prevent it or punish it or detect it, because every underpass for the Trail has been tagged again. I mean, the new one on the new under Canal Boulevard's been tagged 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. And then they come in, we just put brand new restrooms in from the CARES Act, and they graffiti those. Mm-hmm. And I think the people in Highland need to realize that it comes out of our tax money, and it's very expensive. And I think there needs to be discussion. I don't know how to totally prevent it, but, I don't know if maybe we need to have neighborhood watch or something around these parks and having people reporting this stuff, because I think it's a travesty, because we can't have anything nice for 10 minutes before somebody's tried to vandalize it. And I never understood that.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
So I talked, when Todd was here, we talked that there were going to be some cameras put up around some of the different parks, or, before the entrance in the bathrooms. Has anything been done that way where we're starting to get cameras up?
So when we were talking about cameras, we were talking about Highland Glen Park, and we're still working on that. We've gone down through 3 or 4 different options, and power was a limitation. We got that resolved. Actual connection, because they all run off of Wi-Fi, so cellular service. Then we looked at a hotspot. Now we're down to having to basically do closed circuit. because you can't get through anyways, long story
Well,
short.
when I talked to Todd, it was going to be a
So-
game camera that would have it, that would take, and I maybe it'd run out of memory.
Yeah,
but-
the problem with the game cameras is you got to have enough resolution that you can see a license plate, or you can see a person, that you can identify a person, and not just a vague shadow. So, for the police to do anything with. So if we're going to do it, we have to make sure that we do it right. We went down a road of a surveillance company, and they came in and gave us a bid, and it was just through the roof. So we are still working on putting the gate up for Highland Glen that we've talked about. We ran into the same issue with concrete that everybody else is.
Can't get it.
And so we're working a back door to try to get concrete. With that, the gate's ready.
So we would close it to traffic at night, which may make a big difference.
Yep.
I totally agree, though, that this is a problem we need to talk about. Because as I remember,
But not tonight.
not tonight, can I ask a question tonight?
Kim.
Now I feel sheepish about it, my question. We paid extra to put anti-graffiti coating on those bathrooms, didn't we?
This was inside.
Inside?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
They hit outside. They've hit outside too, but this was inside.
Do you know if any neighboring cities have ever tried to do, like for the tunnels, one of those programs where you paint murals, like actual murals, because people are less likely to vandalize that? I was looking into that the other day.
I don't know. But I know cities that have done murals. That would be nice.
It's not just Highland that's here. I've been hearing that Alpine's having similar problems, so it's, it's our Lone Peak Public Safety. I don't know if we're having problems throughout the whole county, but it does seem like we're having problems, so.
A lot of it was
COVID.
Tuesday night was Saturday night, or Friday night, right? So, because they didn't have school on Wednesday, and, yeah, so. But that bridge at across North County Boulevard is one of the worst. It gets
I mean, it's tagged constantly.
So we got it done and got it over, and it got tagged the next day.
Because you can also apply an anti-graffiti coating after the fact. Do we know if that works at all? To make it easier so you don't repaint it every time?
Andy, have you had any experience with that? I haven't.
I put it on, and it gives it a little bit of a glossy look, et cetera, and for a time, I believe it does help a little bit. I don't know after repeated coatings. I don't have a long history with, how's it do 5 years later or anything, but they do make them, and we can certainly look into them.
What are we doing right now? If we get graffiti, are we cleaning or are we painting?
Painting.
As I said, that's what I've had to do on some buildings I have. We have to go in. It's always faster to paint than trying to clean.
Well, and the problem we've got too, Kurt, and I won't belabor this point, but, even on the road going down into Highland Glen Park, there's this giant graphic, pornographic image. And how to get rid of that, I don't know. And I just think it's really sad. So I think we need to make, if nothing else, make the public know that there's a real problem.
We need their help, right?
Yeah.
We need them to watch, we need them to participate in it.
And we also need some kind of assessment of how much it's costing us.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, any other items? So we just have the
I
calendar.
do have some questions.
Okay.
Because Mitchell Hollow is the field by our house. Okay, so just to make sure, this field will now be enclosed and locked, right? So neighborhood kids can't play on the field unless they have a reservation? And then it is an open space park. So is there going to be a fee for the open space neighborhood since they pay $20 a month for this?
That's up to you guys.
Well, we designated actually that as a non-open space park.
So I
When
think
we
this is where,
We evaluated the parks, we said if they're reservable, if they can be used for anything, they're not going to factor into the fee. And the fee doesn't, if you take those out and you take trails, all the trails out, the open space fee still doesn't cover the cost of just the remaining neighborhood parks and open space.
So we've discussed this a lot, Mayor, but have we made formal
I don't know,
motions on
but
that? Yeah.
I
mean,
have we made a
support it.
formal motion to designate it a
What am I paying for now?
Historically,
neighborhood parks, playgrounds, and open space that's not like in a park, but no trails?
Yeah,
I mean,
no
it's
trails.
money, it's fungible, right? But if you take the actual costs, and we've gone through this, if you take the costs of open space and you take out trails, and you take out the bigger parks that are reservable or have bathrooms, the cost is still more than $20. It's $20.82, but, we don't have and that factors in playground, but that doesn't include the new parks person that we're hiring, and improved maintenance costs for what we're doing for all the parks, so.
Is there any point at which we sell enough open space that is no longer the case?
It could be, but the ones we've been selling so far aren't really a big factor in the cost.
Back to Councilmember Rodella's question, we reserve Town Center, for example, which is an open space park, and we charge everybody the same. So historically, we have not distinguished between open space or non-open space residents. It's just that's the fee, the $5 or $15 per hour fee.
So the other thing is, I think, Kim, you bring up about Mitchell Hollow Park. Each of these parks have some uniqueness. The ground, I think, came in as an open space, but the improvements, I think, came from the general fund. So it gets commingled, because I've asked that question, going, hold it, I kind of always had the opinion if it was being paid by open space fee, it shouldn't be reservable. It should be for that open space community.
So I just want to make sure, though, finance-wise, since we have taken out some of these parks and they are now outside of that open space, I guess, expenses. Have we changed that?
No. It doesn't, the city is subsidizing the open space fund with money, and it's been doing that for years, and it varies from 35 to 45% of the cost is funded by the general fund.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to see now what the difference is between what are the expenses of open space versus not, since we have taken those parks out and said they are now city parks.
And I know the mayor's done something, but this is a really good question, and I think it's important because I have a feeling as we go through the campaign, it will be a question that comes up is, how much is the open space generating? What is it maintaining, if you want to say, and then what's coming from the general fund? Now, I know you've said, hey, we look at the budget, I think it was $497, but we're paying a third, I think, out of the general fund to help it, but.
Well, it depends from year to year.
Yeah, so.
I think it maybe is something we could revisit, Kim, in the future to think about if this concept is still working.
Which concept?
The $20 fee.
Yeah, just the way that we have open space structured. It's like it's been a long time now, so we can look back and see, like, what has this become? Is it what we thought it would be? And is it costing what we thought it would be? And is this not today?
Not tonight.
No, not tonight.
We can bring it.
No, but, yeah.
Well,
Any other comments?
I have one last comment. I just wanted to tell the council that I was actually surprised that we worked through all this as fast as we did tonight. In fact, I had come prepared with a pillow in case I had to.
And you had secondary preparations as well.
And I brought some pajamas just in case it got bad. Because I've been to some of these meetings where it's 1 o'clock, yeah.
Not over yet.
So I would entertain.
I make a motion that Scott has to wear his pajamas to the executive session.
Well, just go right in the bathroom, change, and.
I move that we go into closed session to discuss litigation, potential litigation, dealing with the city as according to the code.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We are.
Who seconded that?
Oh, nobody seconded it. Who wants to second it? Kurt, motion
I
by
did.
Kurt, second by Scott.